Your mom and dad. Your mom and dad. Your mom and dad. Your mom and dad.
Well, welcome home, family. It's your mom and dad. Yes. That's as hot as music's gonna get right there. That's as hot as it's gonna get, because guess what, everybody? We're talking about the first ever Golden Bachelor Fantasy Suite week. Are you joking? This is so exciting.
It's so exciting. And, you know, for me, I just absolutely love a darling closed door time, as I call it. And sure, Zach Zalcross, he called it sex week, sure. But for me, it's truly about finding each other's special moments and absolutely darling personalities while we explore our bodies.
Oh my God.
He's just got one of those voices, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's just a voice that says like, I'm always up to good and there's no problems, even if
so
he's
wholesome.
So dirty, but like talking to your body is absolutely a adventure I'd love to explore.
Darling adventure. God. Darling is my favorite.
Darling.
Closed door time I like a heck of a lot better than Blessings Shallcross's sex week. I do like that better.
Sex week. It's like a little more creative. At least closed door time is like, you know, age appropriate. It sounds like something our parents would say.
It's also like, but maybe I'll start using it. I don't know. Sex
week is just like, have a little bit of life. You know,
like,
this is what you came up with.
Yeah.
Sex week. It sounds like a rave in a forest somewhere that you got tickets to. That's like, you know what I mean? Like sex week. Are you going to sex week, dude? It's going to be crazy this month.
Like,
you know what I
mean?
mean?
You had at least, I don't know, 6 weeks to come up with this. You know what I mean? Just a little bit of something.
And it also like reduces like
the
a night
suite,
together to just like, I don't know, sex. You know what I mean? Like it just says like, I just love it when, I just love the feeling when like I have sex. It feels so good. Have you guys ever thought about that? That would be Zach's podcast. You know what's crazy? Is like how good it feels.
Versus Gerry is just like, it's closed door time. It's time where maybe we'll explore intimacy. And intimacy is many different things.
Yeah, many different levels of darling intimacy. But, you know, if he had a podcast, it'd be called Knockin' Boots.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
If he had a
And he does sex
podcast talking about sex therapy. Yeah, knocking boots. I like that.
You guys, another idea for you to have. God.
You are just
welcome. We should just call this podcast like entrepreneurial mindset, because I just keep coming up with the hits.
I feel like you kind of are giving entrepreneurial mindset with your current fit.
Oh yeah, we haven't addressed this.
Yeah, if anyone is watching on the YouTube currently, we kind of dressed up for a Fantasy Suite episode but of course you all know, as I've discussed many times before, if you take me to the bedroom, I will be wearing a sweatshirt and sweatpants. It doesn't matter if it's the first night you're with me or the last night you're with me.
Wow.
This is what you're going to get, because this, my friends, is sexy.
Yeah, Jess's idea of like, let's dress up in pajamas for the podcast is just wear what she wore last week on the podcast. Just a hoodie. She's like, can you dress up in pajamas? Because no one's gonna know it's actually pajama time. So like, you better wear something pajama. And I'm wearing pajamas. Kind of like your worst nightmare in Vegas vibes.
Yeah, what I would like to honestly address, because I said, Evan, let's do kind of a pajama vibe for this episode, and Evan comes out wearing this shirt, and I would like to know whomst put this in your closet. Did you make this purchase? Where did this come from?
I don't know where it came from, and I've never worn it before, but it was in there.
Like, did some member of the Golden Fedora Club show up to our house and just sneak this?
I was getting makeout lessons, and then they said to wear this, and now I'm remembering.
Because
when I went to the conference, it's called Sex Week, and it's basically but it's not. There's no sex involved. It's just makeouts. And so it's makeout week. That's what we call it, but it's sex week. That's what they called it, led by Zach. And we were all supposed to wear kind of pajamas because it's supposed to insinuate I don't care. I'm so like, I'm so chill.
But imagine what could happen later energy.
Exactly.
Because this silk shirt, for those not watching, this silk bedtime shirt is absolutely wild. I've never seen you enter our bedroom before wearing this. And I have to be honest with you, if this was like, you know, we've been dating a little bit and we end up going back to the house and you come out wearing this shirt before we go to bed or have closed door
time,
I'm probably calling an Uber. I'm like, it was so nice getting to know you, but
this is like if someone comes to your house to sell like solar or whatever, you know what I mean? And then this person like opens the door, the guy's just like, oh, you know what? Actually, I bet your energy needs are met. You're fine. Like, I don't want to deal with this guy because he's, you know. So anyway, it's just a very bad vibe.
It's just a pajama.
It's cozy,
vibe.
I will say. It's very cozy.
It's slippery.
It's slippery.
I mean, like, I like the shirt. It's just the fact that it is a pajama shirt, and I'm just very confused as to where it came from.
Well, it's just
so you got a lot of explaining to do.
It's cozy. I'd like to sleep in it to see like if I'm a pajama guy now.
Oh, are you gonna be a pajama guy?
Because you know what's the deal with pajamas and why do people wear them is the question. Because like everyone's like my mom.
The opening for the worst comedy set ever.
Yeah.
What's the deal with?
What's the deal with pajamas? Like my mom wears pajamas. Like every once in a while, if I go to their house and she's there in the morning, it's like, oh, she wears pajamas. But like, does anyone in their 20s or 30s wear pajamas? Like put on an outfit to go to bed? I don't know. I don't think I know anyone who like wears pajamas. Please reach out and tell us if you wear pajamas because I'm actually very curious.
You know, you do present an interesting point. Yeah. It is true. I don't think I own a pair of like
a set of pajamas.
Pajamas.
What are pajamas?
I mean, these are technically pajama pants that I'm wearing, I guess, but like a proper set, like top to bottom matching. I would love a set of PJs for Christmas.
Would you wear them?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I mean, but you know, I might wear them 24 hours a day. I'm like, I just go from sweats to PJs.
Yeah, it's more of like buying you a new uniform.
Yeah, it's just a new uniform.
Yeah, because I just don't understand like the feeling of having more layers. No, it's not even a layer issue. It's like more going on. So if you like you ever do like when you're in a hoodie, which you would know, when you like turn over in bed, now all of a sudden you're like in a knot. It feels like you're
sure.
pulled and the whole thing's like that. Like I just don't understand the need. You think it's like back when blankets were little or like thin, right. So like they had to wear more clothes to bed
before the days of like heat.
Yeah, so like you needed to wear more. Now that we have heat and like big down comforters, like you don't need it.
Yeah, I think too, like, you know, there were probably like, you know, people, it was more simple, more condensed as it probably should be, like, you know, clothing wise. So it's like you had your suit or your outfit.
Yeah, that you worked like building houses in because like everyone wore suits back then.
Down in the mines.
Yeah, just like in a mine with a tie.
With a suit and tie, you'd then have your, you know, your weekend outfit, which was like somewhat of a sweater, and then you'd have your PJs. It was just like your outfit.
Bring back the PJ.
I'm down to bring back the pajama.
All right. Well,
just
now
so
I know what to
long
get
as
you.
maybe, you know.
That's not this?
Maybe not the silk, like whatever Vegas pattern this is. I do like a silk PJ. You know what? I'm starting to like it on you.
Welcome to Vegas.
I'm
Luck be a lady tonight. Hey. Take it easy. Anyway,
like we said, we are here to recap the first ever Fantasy Suite episode of The Golden Bachelor. I have a lot to say about this. It was very good, very interesting. We need to dive in. And we also will be going over the latest episode of Bachelor in Paradise, which included our girl, Katie Thurston.
Bringing the fire, bringing the drama. I love it.
The drama, the roast, like... This lit the beach on fire.
Yes.
Her conversation with Blake. I mean, there's a lot
there
with BIP to discuss. I felt like the Bachelor in Paradise episode up until Katie showed up was a little slow.
Yeah, they were just chilling.
Boom, Katie
then
came
boom,
in.
Brought the drama. I can't wait to share my thoughts.
God bless Katie. Oh, also, quick schedule moment, reminder, update, all of this. So this week, this is going to be our only episode, and we're not getting a new Golden Bachelor episode this week or BIP episode this week. That's going to be happening next week. So this week, this is our only episode, and then next week, we will be dropping an episode, not on Monday, but on Wednesday. We're going to be doing some fun topics, some call home, so tune in next Wednesday for that. And the following week, on Monday, we will drop the Golden Bachelor finale recap, and then on Wednesday, we will drop a Bachelor in Paradise recap because we want to give time to the Golden Bachelor and all this.
Yes.
Anywho, first, let's dive into Golden Bachelor.
Yes.
But before that, we
Okay.
need to take a quick pause.
Yes.
Quick pause. So family, the holidays are upon us, and personally, the gifts that mean the most to me are the ones that really feel special and personalized and connect me more with the person, which is why over the years, I have gifted Storyworth to so many people that I love in my life, and they've absolutely loved it. Storyworth is an online service that helps you and your loved ones preserve precious memories and stories for years to come. I've gotten Storyworth for my mom, my dad. I actually got it for my grandma a few years before she passed away, and I have to tell you now, this is a gift that ends up being special and lasting for forever because now having that memory that her and I had together, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I will treasure her Storyworth for forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every week, Storyworth emails your relative or friend a thought-provoking question of your choice from their large pool of possible options. Each unique prompt asks questions you've never thought to ask, like, what's the bravest thing you've ever done in your life? Or if you could see into the future, what would you want to find out?
And then after 1 year, Storyworth will compile all of your loved ones' stories, including photos, into a beautiful keepsake book that you'll be able to share and revisit for generations to come, which means so much, like I said, bringing up my grandma, my nana, and also having those questions every week is amazing, and it brings you together in this process. Genuinely, reading the weekly stories helps connect you with loved ones, no matter how near or far apart you are. Like when I did this with my mom, who I do live close by, and her and I are very close, I was actually blown away by how much I learned about her. It was amazing, and also really nurtured our relationship in a unique new way. With Storyworth, I am giving those I love most a thoughtful, personal gift from the heart and preserving their memories and stories for years to come. Go to storyworth.com/momdad and save $10 on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/momdad to save $10 on your first purchase. Storyworth.com/momdad. All right. Let's get into Golden.
Let's get into it.
Let's absolutely get into the Golden Bachelor. First and foremost,
Yeah.
throughout this episode, there was a moment that stuck out, and that was they did a casting call, everybody.
Yeah.
They officially did a casting call, which means,
Something's coming.
fingers crossed.
But they didn't specify, did they?
They didn't say whether
It just said like something about like if you don't want to go into your golden years alone, sign up. But they didn't say.
Golden Bachelorette.
They didn't specify.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe we're going to get a Golden Bachelorette, or maybe we're going to get Golden Bachelor round 2. I don't know. We shall see. But,
Golden Paradise.
oh, please don't tease me.
That would be incredible.
Do not even tease me. That would be so amazing. But that gave me hope. That gave me
Yes.
hope and excitement that I was like, okay, at least we're doing some more casting calls here. We're keeping this rolling, which they should, because that's my favorite. Honestly, it's my favorite thing. I think.
Well,
the franchise
it's
ever
also
done.
interesting because like they probably this was an experiment
Sure.
and a successful one.
Yep.
But the fact that they got so many good people and so many personalities, I think that shows it's very promising. I bet they
Very
were
promising.
afraid it was going to be boring. Like,
Probably.
you know what I mean? These people are going to be too like mature and just kind of not really expressive, and just like I bet they were going to struggle with like, hey, we thrive off this idea that like we have young people going crazy.
Yeah.
And yet they were able to find like mature, amazing people, but still brought
Great personality.
hilarity and great personality. So I think it's a winner.
I'm so happy. One thing I did notice from the top as well throughout this episode was that, you know how they have the role where it's a lot of the nature around, whether that be animals, plants, etc. I was noticing during this episode, we had a lot of sloth moments that were featured.
Oh, heavy sloth?
It was heavy on the sloth content, which I love. Sloth, one of my most favorite animals.
Yeah.
But I was like, is this rude? Like, you're
Yeah, like
or-
I'm old and slow, like all those like.
I was like, it was an a variety of animals. It was just a heavy sloth content. And
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, everybody.
And they're
like,
basically putting into your mind, like, how do sloths have sex?
Yeah.
Like, just slow and like, do you like that?
there was
You know
like
what I mean?
one moment where Gerry was talking about intimacy in the older age. And he's like, it's different and special because it is slow and whatever. And then they're like showing sloths. And
Yeah,
I'm
they're
like, okay, guys. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
like we could do a variety of different creatures. It doesn't have to be just a
Doesn't
sloth.
have to be so rude.
Even though anytime
We
I
love
can
a
see a
sloth.
sloth, I'm absolutely thrilled.
Well, it starts out with Jesse, right?
It does. It starts out with Jesse and Gerry having a sit-down conversation. It's this big father-son energy that we're getting where son is the host,
How old is
essentially.
Jesse?
He's in his 40s, I think.
He's in his 40s? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is father-son.
I'm going to guess 42.
Okay.
But let's see.
Let's see. Holding.
45.
45. Okay. And he's 70?
72.
72. Okay. So this is kind of where I have a little bit of an issue.
Speak it, Katie.
And maybe Jesse was kind of just playing into the crowd a little bit.
Okay.
But I'm like, too old to be like cringing at all his like talking about sex. You know what I'm saying? Like if he was 22, I get it. But Jesse's like cringing at the idea of mom and dad having sex and stuff. And I'm kind of going, wait a second.
I'm like, Jesse,
Like
you know
you're
how
way
you-
too old.
You
Like
know how you
this,
got here, honey.
like give or take 5 years. This
Yeah.
guy's like a guy you work with in a peer almost. You know what I mean? Like once you reach 40,
Yeah.
it's like these are people that you know and live. So
Sure.
for him to be like, ew, TMI, I was like, okay, dude, like. Let's like, what are we doing here? Like, I know maybe you're playing younger, but like, let's be real. You could just have a conversation and not make it all like, Dad, stop, like, put fingers in the ears type energy that he was bringing. Like, even when he was like, sex.
I know. I did love
You know
that
what I mean?
part, though.
But it was like he was cringing, like he was talking, like he was 20 years old and he was talking to his mom and dad about sex.
Yeah.
Like, dude, this is so
well,
embarrassing.
that's what I loved with at the top when Gerry kind of almost was like, I don't know what Gary's intent in this was. When he right away said to Jesse, you saying, do people my age still knock boots?
Yeah.
Trademark
Right.
podcast.
Yes.
And
Knocking boots coming this fall.
and Gerry then asks if if Jesse's parents are still sexually active.
That is awkward.
which was a lot, but and then JP is like traumatized. But what I loved about that, even though I was like, oh my god, Gerry,
Yeah.
it was almost like, hey Jesse, you asking me these questions presented in this way, I'm gonna put you in your place a little bit.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That's
Like-
the point.
Like, I'm going to put you in your place a little bit and be like, I don't necessarily want to have this deep, intense conversation where you all are going to try to make it shticky about older people being
Yes.
intimate sexually. So I'm going to kind of sit you down a little bit and be like, what about your parents, Jesse?
Yes.
That's what it felt like.
Well, and then Jesse's response was like, yuck! You know what I mean? Like, his thing was like, wait, do you guys still do it? Ew! Like, his energy reeked of that. And I was a little bit like, dude, I would be like, stoked. Like, if he was telling me this, I was like, oh, amazing, dude. Like, have a blast. Like, enjoy it, whatever.
Enjoy.
But he definitely was like the sex dad.
Well,
Whoa.
and then when JP said, how important is intimacy to you? And then Gerry goes, well, I would like for you to define intimacy for me. What do you mean? And
Right.
then Jesse's just like, sexual
Sex week.
intercourse. Yeah, he's like, Zach said it was sex week.
week.
So
Is that
he's
okay?
like, Jesse's like, Zach made this a little bit easier for me, but by just saying sex week, and I wasn't necessarily prepared for you to ask me the definition of intimacy. So okay.
Yeah, what's Gary gonna say to people? Oh, we just feed each other soups, like porridge or something. You're like,
What do
what?
you think?
Like, yeah,
Come
that
on now.
was so ridiculous how that was played. But like, I also loved, again, it's like Gerry keeps surprising us with like if it presents itself, I'm getting after it. And I
Yeah.
know they bleeped out what he said too. He's like, oh hell yeah, like I'm getting after it. So it's like, of course he's still ripping.
I loved him too. Then, just talking about like, hey, listen, all jokes aside, you could tell
Yeah,
that he
yeah.
was razzing Jesse because he
Right.
just goes, all jokes aside, he's like, honestly, we'll see. Comfort level is key.
Yeah.
And, I just want to make sure that when we're together that this person is feeling comfortable. And if it ends up essentially leading there and we're,
Yeah.
all parties are interested in this, then yeah, we shall see.
Right. And then and then like Jesse's like, but is the sex gonna happen though? Like he's super interested in that. Yeah, you know what? It's interesting. Like when you think about him going through this process at this age,
Yeah.
it is like, sure, gonna have fun, maybe have sex, do all that. But like it is like you can see from the questions how little they still know each other.
Oh, for
like
sure.
later on, you see him talking about like, what do you do for work? And you know what I mean? Like there
Yeah.
still is where it's like, yo, we got about 8 hours to like absolutely figure out if we're going to get married or not. And I got to
Yeah.
ask you like actual questions, you know what I mean? About
Mm-hmm.
who you are. So like, you know that for them specifically, because they've lived so much life,
Yeah.
this is like the essential difference maker.
Oh, of
Versus if you're
course.
younger, it really could just be about like, what's our physical connection like? And like,
Yeah.
you know, what are your dreams? But if you've lived this much life, you're like, this is the difference maker. This could make or break everything.
Yeah, totally. I also feel like too, you know, when I'm watching this, from Gary's perspective, you know, being the age that Gary is,
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit like, hey, we all know that we do Fantasy Suite every single season of The Bachelor or Bachelorette. And now all of a sudden it's this big, like, everybody hold your breath. And we've been talking and hinting at Fantasy Suite since we announced the beginning of the
Everyone's
show.
wondering what's going to happen.
And it's a little bit like, if I was Gary or any of these women, I'd be like, everybody cool your jets. Like, just because we're older, like we've been doing this for years.
Yes.
So please don't make like a whole shtick out of this. Don't make a stunt out of this.
Yeah.
Like we are consenting adults. Yes, we are older, but like you have Bachelor, Bachelorette, Fantasy Suites, and it always is. Of course, they always add like the shticky piece to it regardless, but not in this sense where it's like, oh my God, what is it going to be like with this season?
They're also
It's
not
like,
107.
Yeah.
You know
come
what
on
I
now.
mean?
Yeah.
It's like they're still like, just think about like most of all of our parents. It's in the same
They're
like decade.
repelling down 170-foot cliffs.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. Good to know. For real though. Okay, but one of the things that he does say to Jesse is he describes both of his relationships with the women. And when he's talking about Leslie, he's referring to this like Leslie leaning against his chest like makes him shudder. So we know, as we've seen before, there's a lot of passion with Leslie. But he talks about with Theresa that there is this hole in her heart like Gerry has because of the loss of their spouse. So what we're getting here is, you know, kind of what we've been seeing from the top, which we've all thought, where it's like there's kind of this passionate connection with Leslie, and with Theresa, there's a lot that they can relate to. They have a lot in common with their life experience. Going into it, it definitely felt to me like it was a Leslie for sure, but typical of this show, by the end of the episode, I'm scratching my head. Like, I don't know. And he took us on a roller coaster this episode. An absolute
major roller
coaster. Also, before they officially threw him into the Fantasy Suites, they did get a nice shot of what they tried to make look like essentially a nude Gerry in a tub overlooking Costa Rica.
It was also like a really weird clip too, because like it was just him in one of the two tubs for 3 seconds, and then you never saw it again. I thought they would like do 3 or 4 shots of him in the tub, like to make it look like a thing. It almost looked like that was a bad edit. Like it was like quickly him, and I don't even think it was him. I think it was just like some random thing they pulled off of like stockimagery.com. Like man in tub overlooking the jungle.
I didn't see that lion tattoo, so you know there's no knowing.
It was so random. I actually wrote down like, what was that shot? I would have loved to see a little bit more like him, you know, like vibing in the jacuzzi, wondering who's gonna be in this next one.
They just had the back of Gary's head looking over essentially his kingdom in this tub.
Who will I rule with?
Yeah, and again, they were just having him be kind of this whole like, you know, obviously he probably has some trunks on in that bathtub, but they're making it look like, oh, Gerry, he's.
I love the idea of him. He's kind of like a nudist. And the idea that like he's always walking around naked, and so they're always having to blur him out because he's just walking around like his chalet naked all the time, and he's just like, what? Like this is how I live my life. This is how I expect us to be, naked at all times. And he's just always naked, and they're always having to get him to put
black box
something
him
on. Yeah.
Both of the morning after dates, they're like, oh, Gerry.
Yeah, he's just walking around, stretching, opening the blinds naked, and like Theresa's just in like a full like clothes, and he just walks around naked. He's just one of those people, he's just always naked. And they're like, okay, chill, man. He's just doing the ITMs naked. He's just like, you know, for me.
They're like, Gerry.
I'm very comfortable.
Well, his first official fantasy suite date was with Leslie, okay?
Yes.
And like I just referred to, they have them repel down 160-foot cliff.
What?
With everybody, not just a cliff. It's a waterfall type cliff thingy. I don't know what a geologist would call it.
A waterfall.
Great. Okay, thank you. A
Yeah,
waterfall.
yeah, yeah. According to geology.
It's a waterfall. They're rappelling down the side of it.
Yeah.
So not only is it slippery, not only will it be high, it's also slippery.
Put her on the slippery side too, by the
They
way.
put Leslie on the slippery side, and the water at points is hitting them at a speed which I can only imagine is
It's
painful.
not super
it's
comfortable.
stingy. It's like going on a roller coaster when it's raining outside and you're like, ow,
Yeah.
ow, ow. It's like pelting you.
Yeah.
I mean, for the love of God, give them a damn massage. You know, everybody on the beach in paradise, they're getting massages, they're getting all these things. I'm like, they're going to put Gerry and Leslie in a situation where they must rappel down a slippery waterfall cliff.
Would you do
etc.
that? Would you do that?
What
Like
do
if we were in Costa Rica together and I said I really want to go rappelling, would you do it?
Honey, what do you think?
Nope. But I just thought maybe, you know, after seeing this, we're like, okay, these people are
If I could rappel on a professional's back, I would.
on a back like you're being carried like a baby.
Yes. If I could be on the back, because I'm like, they know.
Like skydiving, how people skydive on the front of someone. Like you want to do that just rappelling?
Well, and normally, you know, I would
you're
have
just
said
hanging?
normally I would have said in the front, like when I was skydiving,
Like sleeping?
but I would have been up against the
That's
rocks
true.
if it was a propelling situation. I'm in like
So it'd be
a
way
little-
scarier because then you'd be hanging on the back, just dangling.
But then I know I'm in a professional's hands.
Oh,
They
you don't
know how
trust
to work
yourself.
the ropes. They know if all of a sudden something slips, how to you know.
But see, I loved Gerry. Gary's like, now we have a story.
I know,
Now
I
we
did
see.
love
You
that.
don't want to live your life too afraid of everything because then there's no stories.
I
You're not gonna. What are you gonna tell your kids? One day I had pajamas and I woke up. Like that's the story. No, you gotta have. I repelled. I
no,
did some
one day
shit.
I'll be like, hey, one day I'll tell our grandchildren, I'll be like, this one day I was recording a podcast. I don't have to explain what podcast started them because
Right.
that'll be so many years before. But I was doing a podcast with your grandpa, and one day he walked in with a silk pajama shirt, and I don't know where that came from. That feels like
Yeah.
enough mystery to
No,
me.
they're gonna be like, why are you telling me this? But I loved.
yes,
I just loved how he addressed it. You know what I mean? What? They're like,
Grandma didn't take
they're like,
risks,
that's the beginning
but
of
I
the
will
story. That
tell
is not
you."
the end of a story. That is the beginning of a story.
I
But
just find the little things in life
they're like,
exciting.
my grandma was crazy.
Grandma loved a cafe. Grandma loved
Yeah.
a champagne. She loved a croissant.
Grandma's still in a hoodie. It's year 2069. No one wears these anymore.
2069.
Got it?
Nice.
Do you like what I did there?
Nice.
But I do love what he did, which was just kind of like he took her fear and made it like an adventure.
Yeah.
And then was just like, well, now we have a story. Now we have something to tell our grandkids or whatever. Like we rappelled down this mountain, and I don't know. I thought he still has such a youthful energy about him.
Oh, I mean, both of them, absolutely. And she was such a trooper, like straight up. She was
Yeah.
like, I'm scared of heights, which,
Mhm.
but of course, Leslie told producers beforehand
Yeah,
that
they
she's
don't know
scared
the
of heights.
rules.
So they're like, we're going to throw her and make her rappel. I'm like, for the love
Mhm.
of God, please. Not on the Golden Bachelor or Bachelorette. But she was such a trooper. She did it. She conquered her fear. I would have never. I would have been like, love you so much, Gare Bear. I'll watch you and I'll meet you at the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay. But she didn't. She did it. And he encouraged her all the way through. And not only that, he was so good about encouraging her as she goes down. And then at the end, being such a cheerleader.
Yeah.
You know what I
he's
mean?
Very
Where he's just
encouraging.
like, everybody, did you? He's like stopping the camera crews and being like, did you see? Can we acknowledge what Leslie has done? And she has conquered her greatest fear. And
Yeah.
I am so proud to be standing next to her in her darling presence.
Yes.
You know what?
went down this darling.
You know what? I
waterfall.
may do it
If
if
it was
you would encourage me like that.
Sick. I literally, as I was watching the rappelling, I thought to myself, Jess wishes I was more like him right now for sure.
Babe, you know what? He's 72. You got plenty
I got
of time to
time?
catch up.
I'd love to see like there's video of him when he's like my age and he's just like curmudgeon-y, and I'm like, there's still hope. There's no way that guy's been like that his whole life.
I know.
But yeah, he took the time to let her, push her through something that was powerful. You know what? It was like an example of what life would be like with him.
100%.
You know, like here's something scary, here's something. He's obviously probably a little on edge too, but he put all his energy
Even though
into her.
he didn't seem like it at all.
Right.
Gerry threw that harness on and just shot down that cliff.
Fearless.
Absolutely fearless.
Yeah.
Absolutely fearless.
Yeah, I thought it was a really great connecting moment.
And then they had this beautiful moment where they were soaking in the calm waters post the, wild waterfall.
Yeah.
And they're making out.
Yeah.
The adrenaline went up, and now you're
Mhm.
excited and
Mhm.
making out, and it was a vibe.
They're definitely, the sexual chemistry is the romantic and sexual chemistry they have is palpable.
Mm-hmm.
More so, I just sense from him that he has like hot for Leslie vibes.
Yeah.
Like she just seems so chill and sweet.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to read, to be honest with you. I have a hard time reading her.
Okay.
Because I suppose maybe up against like the background of Theresa, who's like so easy to read.
Yeah.
Leslie just hits me as someone who's like, I'm always just a little bit like reading her face, like, is she liking? Is it all good? And then she'll say like, oh my god, it was best thing. I'm okay, got it.
Well, she has
She's
a
little,
she has a touch of mystery to her,
Yeah.
which is
I
very.
think that's what he likes too.
It's like got that nice little mystery.
Yeah, and they're kind of opposite.
Mhm.
He's like high energy, like let's go get life. She's a little more chill. So I don't know. I just see him kind of being like, I think he feels young again when he's with her.
Yeah.
That's the energy, I think.
Yeah.
It's like
for
I'm
sure.
70 something. I'm 72 years old. I've lived full marriage, full kids. I feel like I'm in my 20s with her again. I think that's what's
I
going
sense
on
that.
with him.
And I have another thing about that specifically with the two of them that I'll bring up in just a second.
Yeah.
But another quick pause before we dive into the night portion and
Yes.
then the actual fantasy suite portion.
Mhm.
Okay. Support for today's episode comes from OneSkin. Oh, family. Aven and I
Love
are
it.
huge fans of OneSkin. We use their products daily and we have seen the difference. I think we've been using their products for maybe almost a year now.
Yeah.
They're amazing. If you've been on the hunt to find a skincare product that can actually deliver what they promise, OneSkin has what you've been searching for thanks to their disruptive approach that targets skin aging at the source. They combine tissue engineering, data analysis, and cutting-edge longevity science to create the world's most effective product to target skin aging. OneSkin believes the purpose of skincare is not just to improve how we look, but to optimize our skin biology so that it is more resilient to the aging process. Their products are powered by a groundbreaking peptide, OS1, which is the first ingredient scientifically proven to prevent the accumulation of aged senescent cells. Listen, most skincare available on the market is designed to provide a temporary reduction, like treating the symptoms rather than the cause. And that's what makes OneSkin so different and amazing.
Yeah, like Jess said, we've been using OneSkin for, a year or over a year,
Yeah.
and have seen a clear difference. All their products we've used, I love, especially their OS01 face. Like I said, I've seen the difference since using it, and it also absorbs quickly and leaves my skin feeling really soft. It's fragrance-free, and Jess, you have super sensitive skin, and it doesn't irritate it at all.
No, it does not. No. OneSkin is seriously incredible. OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company. OneSkin addresses skin health at the molecular level, targeting the root causes of aging so skin feels and appears younger. It's time to get started with your new face, eye, and body routine at a discounted rate today. Get 15% off with code MOMDAD at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code MOMDAD. Now is the best time to invest in your skin. Age healthy with OneSkin. Also a great gift idea, everybody. Oneskin.co, code MOMDAD. Okay, so night portion begins. What I wanted to say though about Gerry and Leslie in particular, they laugh so much together.
Yes.
And that's the thing that really stands out to me. Like, they're both incredible women.
Yeah.
And I see his connection with both.
Mhm.
I tend to feel like it's a little stronger with Leslie, but we'll talk about after
Yeah.
Theresa and his fantasy suite where that kind of landed. And so I don't know. But the thing about Leslie and Gerry is they are laughing constantly. Like, she makes him laugh so hard.
Mhm.
And that's really beautiful to me.
She's got a sense of humor.
She's funny.
She's funny.
Yeah.
She's dry, kind
Yeah,
of.
she is dry.
And
Which I love.
She's like a city girl. He's like living in the woods. Like,
I don't know if quite that, but
no, but I'm saying like they're opposites in a lot of ways.
Yeah, they
you know
are.
what I mean? And I think that's exciting.
yeah.
Like if you're 72 years old and you meet someone, I think that's what's going on with Leslie too, is like you're new and exciting and you have different ideas and you come from a different place and like, you know what I mean? Different experiences, and you guys can like, there's a lot of, and laughing's huge. Like humor is huge when it comes to chemistry. So I think that's what's going on there too.
Yeah.
Is like,
she just cracks,
it's exciting. It's
she
funny.
cracks him up constantly. Like throughout this conversation, into the night in the fantasy suite, we even then see like the next day, and then after the credits, like she just is cracking him up. She will give him a hard time. She'll ride him a little bit. I see joy in their future together if they wind up together.
I agree.
Where you're laughing, and I feel like, you know, this sounds so corny, but I'm sure laughter helps retain our youth and keep us young and joyous. And I don't know, I
completely agree.
I just noted that a lot this episode, how much she makes him laugh. But he then is saying, you know, that he does feel like he might have had rose-colored glasses on with Leslie and she might have them on with him, because he's like, we haven't really gone through the hard questions. And so he asks her, he's like, you haven't asked me the hard questions in a while, like why don't you ask me? And she's like, okay, well, I have a question for you. When was the last time you had sex? He's dying laughing, and he's like, well, can you be specific with myself or someone else?
I wish you would have been like, no, when was the last time you had sex with yourself?
Be honest.
Be honest. How often are you having sex with yourself?
It's a test.
And then he didn't really say.
He didn't.
He was kind of like, well, you know, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Now, is this code for guy code being like, I don't know. When was the last? When it's like, you know exactly when it was, and it was like, you didn't. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, God, was it 2 nights ago or 5 years ago? You know what I mean? Like, was it one of those? Was it he just doesn't want to kind of like share that? I don't know. Because she goes, oh, a year ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't
like,
know. Because he does later in the ITMs kind of make a comment where he's like, after their night together, he's like, I'm sure a lot of people wonder about what's going on behind the closed doors of the fantasy suite. And what I say, it's none of their fucking business. They bleep him out. And so part of me is a little bit like, maybe he's just like, I understand that I'm on a reality TV show, but I also maintain a sense of privacy. And I'm maybe a little sick of them making a whole thing about this whole sex fantasy suite deal. Like, it's none of your fucking business. And I loved that. I love that he was like, it's none of your fucking business. I really did.
And he was like, well, I think I was more asking kind of like, you know, like what we want for our lives. And she's like, oh. I also think there's something about Leslie that's really interesting, which she doesn't hit me as someone that like needs all that right away. Almost like we'll figure that out.
Well,
versus like I need to get in all the weeds, and it's like, well, let's just let the weeds sort themselves out over time.
Well, with that being said, I mean, he doesn't ask her, well, what would our life look like? And she had a response that was kind of like what you're saying, where she's like, well, listen, I don't necessarily want to leave Minneapolis permanently because I have my family there and I want to be around with them. But at the end of the day, if we're in love, we'll figure it out. And she's like, we'll make it work. And I will say, in some cases, I'd be like, you guys should probably sort that out first.
Yeah.
But with Leslie's personality, I do genuinely feel like she does have very go with the flow energy that works.
Yeah. But I'm also a little bit like I said before, these people are in their 70s, dude. They're not like, I don't know, I'm willing to go anywhere and do anything all the time. It's like, her saying I'm not willing to leave Minneapolis.
Well, she didn't say that.
Well, whatever. It was kind of like a permanently and everything.
She's like, well, I don't think like permanently, but maybe we can go back and forth.
I guess if you're like retired, you could just kind of flop back and forth and spend 3-4 months at a time at each spot. But that is to me a very big thing.
Sure.
More than any other show more than any other like any of the other shows where it's like where they end up and how they split time is something that like you have to be strong to push through like time away and all this stuff and long distance moments and stuff. So that is kind of a big deal to me that like when you say, oh, we'll just figure it out. It's like, maybe I don't know. I just think that's a tough one versus that Theresa was a lot more like, hey, if this works out, I'll move to you. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it was like, oh, okay, at least I know how to digest that.
Well, and my thing is too, like I was saying, I feel like with most everybody else, I'd be like, but there's something about Leslie that I'm just kind of like, I feel like
she's so chill,
she'd
we'll
figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we'll see.
Maybe I'm wrong, and it's
We'll
going to
see.
be
I mean-
a thing, because obviously we saw the previews for next week, and we see that his daughters have a big question mark about either Leslie or Theresa. And maybe that has to do with it. Maybe Leslie not maybe feeling like, you know, there's a clear path. They're feeling like, well, Dad, are you going to end up moving there? Because we're not. I mean, who knows?
I don't know.
But what she does, though, really confirm for him is he then is bringing up, he's like, you know, I want this to be till death do us part. If I do this, I'm doing this. Like, listen, Gerry is here, and Gerry is like, I'm leaving engaged, and I will marry who I'm engaged to, and we will be together for forever.
100%.
This man is taking this process as seriously as it gets. Like, he's like, I have to pick my wife because we will be married.
Yes.
And so he's like, this is going to be till death do us part. And I thought that was a super powerful conversation then, when she was like, you know, she started to cry, and she's like, it's foreign to me because I've never really been in that. I've been searching for that my entire life. I've always wanted the till death do us part, but that hasn't happened for me.
Yeah.
She's like, I wake up every birthday and I'm alone, and it's like kind of this Groundhog's Day thing. And she's like, I don't want to be alone anymore. And she, which I love, she's like, I want you to like help me do that. It's a beautiful conversation, and that really moved him. And he's holding her, and he's like, I got you.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I want to do that. And then Gerry says, one of the first moments that he makes a big statement, he's like, well, then we will.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, that then we will, coupled later with Gary's like, you're the one.
Yeah.
I'm like, these are some big statements, Gerry.
I think Gerry is a little like, I think he's scared. She scares him a little bit, like not in a bad way, in a way of like, he kind of does these things to like keep her close. You know what I mean? I almost feel like she kind of makes him feel like he's on his toes a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think because she's not as easy to read as like Theresa, like there's kind of this like, she's like a little more chill and doesn't give it all.
Yeah.
So there's kind of this like,
Because he held off on Theresa
that's
for a
what I'm
hot
saying.
minute where he
So
didn't say I love you.
I think there's like, not only does he feel like a strong connection, but I do feel like there's a little bit of like, I don't want to lose her, but I could lose her.
Understood, yeah.
Because she does have like cool girl you meet at like the festival vibe, and you're just kind of like, hey, and she's like, oh, I might, and you're like, wait, where are you going?
She
has like that kind of like, where are you going energy?
Rom-com dream girl
Kinda
that like
cool.
you see walk by, and you're like, oh my god, I think I just saw the love of my life, and then she's gone.
And then she says something like, I'll find you. And you're like, but
yeah.
will you? You know what I mean?
Totally. No, that makes sense too. Then why he's just like really wanting to make it clear to her, like,
I got
you're it.
Exactly.
Like, don't disappear on me.
Exactly.
Like, you know, no, that makes sense.
Where Theresa's like providing like a PowerPoint of why they should be together.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's a little bit like, okay, let me kind of figure out the Leslie piece.
He doesn't feel like Theresa all of a sudden is gonna think maybe this won't work and leave.
Exactly.
Which I don't feel like Leslie is either, but because of her energy,
so
the
much more
cool
chill.
girl like energy, it's definitely okay. Interesting
You know what I'm
point.
saying?
Interesting point.
That's how I feel.
That does make sense. Well, you know, they end up. Jesse, of course, gives them the card to the fantasy suite, which always I will never not laugh about the fantasy suite card being signed by the host. It makes me laugh every single time.
It's such a
ball. So bizarre.
Sign it.
It's just like, here you go. It's from Jesse, and here's the key to your intimacy.
Yeah.
Like,
Why are you signing it? Why can't it just be like a thing?
It's just a card. We talked to this on drugs. It's like, why can't it just be a card and say, here's the key to your fantasy suite? Why is it signed by Jesse?
It's like a hotel. You know when you go to like a hotel and it's like signed, you know, the Hilton. It's like, okay,
right.
why are you signing all this?
But like
stuff?
that makes more signed the Hilton, signed the Bachelor franchise.
Yes.
Not like it's not signed by Mr. Hilton.
It's like he's Santa Claus. You know what I mean? He's like, this whole thing is my architecture.
Yeah,
and I will allow. He's like, the Wizard of Oz or something.
100%. But you know, they go into the fantasy suite. I've been loving his ITMs during this moment then where he's talking about how it's scary to bare yourself completely to someone and hope they accept you for who you are entirely. Yeah. That was hitting me in a different way where I was thinking about the fantasy suite in a different perspective. Like again, with the, you know, your typical bachelor, bachelorette, it's like, oh gosh, here we go. They're going to have their time alone. Let's see if it works out. But his moment of talking about, you're bearing yourself completely to someone, heart,
Yeah.
soul, etc.,
Mhm.
depending on where it goes. And that's really scary to be like, here I am. Are you going to accept me for who I am?
I don't know if you do this, but the next morning I always am
Oh.
like looking so closely to see all their like vibes. I'm like,
No,
wait,
you're
is
trying
it
to
weird?
figure
Did she
out-
like it and he didn't? Did he like it and she didn't?
Oh,
Like
no.
I'm always like over analyzing everyone's face to be like, do they seem stoked right now? Is
Oh,
he go
no.
best night ever? And she's like, I just think for me, I need to take some time to analyze. You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
it's literally
I'm always
like-
just kind of like, what's the vibe?
It's my human escape room. It's those mornings you're watching for every context clue, and you're also seeing like, where are the clothes in the background, and is there like some is there a bottle of champagne open? Is like did they eat those strawberries that were in that
Yeah.
corner? Like what's going down
Why
here?
does she have chocolate all over her shoulders? Oh God.
Feet. Yeah, no, for sure. But I mean, like these two though, it was definitely getting like the chemistry was tense.
Yeah.
And this is again where he says, "I think you're the one." He's like, it's like I have to have you with my morning coffee. I have to have you when I go to bed at night. In the middle, you can have free time. I'm like, oh my God, Gerry, like
Daddy.
Daddy, this is getting a
Like
little-
it was kind
I'm
of
feeling a little flushed. Like,
yeah, it gave like like role playing vibes.
I know, I was
and he's
feeling
like,
a
and
little-
you will obey me. You know what I mean? It gave
a
like
little flush.
okay, you
I was
guys
like-
work something out.
I was like, oh my gosh. But then, they had the moment after they were making out in bed where he gets up and he's like, the thermostat is set to 80. And he's like, what are you, like 70? And she's like 69.
That's the thing.
And they're dying.
That's the thing.
That's the thing. It was all night with her.
Yeah.
She's making him laugh so hard,
Loose,
which
fun.
relaxes then you into
Uh-huh.
whether it be intimacy or
Yeah.
emotional intimacy with conversations,
Yeah.
all of this.
Well, and she's got that like swag, and he is. Let's be real. He is all amazing things, but one thing he definitely is just a little like, I don't want to say the word like square, but he is a little like good boy.
Yeah,
And so she's got a little danger to her.
she does.
And so she's always making like, when was the last time you had sex? And he's like, whoa, you know what I mean? And then she's like 69. He's like, whoa, like he's definitely like,
Can you imagine?
I just have the feeling like amongst his family, he's the guy that says the funny jokes.
Yeah.
But like with her, she's on a different level. And
Yes.
so he's always kind of just like, oh my God, I can't
Can
believe
you
you said that.
imagine though if when they showed the next morning, if all of a sudden like after their night together, it would have showed him and he all of a sudden he's just like ripping a cig and his energy's totally changed. He's just like,
He's got they gave each other neck tattoos. Like I love the idea of him like waking
he's
up
just
in the
got
morning.
Leslie tattooed across
He's got a
his throat.
tattoo on his neck that's fresh, and he's like, "Last night was insane." And he's just he's like, he's smoking cigarettes. He's
martini
got
at 8 in the
yeah, he's
morning.
he's got a cocktail, walking around just like my kingdom or something like that. You're like, oh my God, he's changed.
Honestly though, but I mean clearly they definitely seemed connected
Mhm.
when they woke up. She seemed a little more reserved
That's
in
what I
that
was
way.
reading.
I was getting the energy from her that like after, they spent all this alone time together, probably falling more in love, and now she's feeling a little bit of the nerves. And she talked about, she's like, I love Theresa, but obviously now I'm feeling nervous. And you could
Sure,
sense,
you're like aware now. Oh shoot, now
yeah,
he's leaving.
you can sense that she was a little bit like tighter in the morning where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I don't know, where this is going
They
to go.
both felt a little like, even he was like, whew, that was late. We stayed up really late talking.
I know. And they were
He's
playing
like, we talked about a lot,
and they were playing footsie too. They showed
Yeah.
that for a second and I was like, oh my God, if they zoomed up on my foot playing footsie, it's like by that point, considering my feet now, I'm like, I would have bunions the size of California. Like, don't zoom up on my feet.
But yeah, I was a little bit like, I was reading their face and it definitely made me feel just like a little like, are they just tired? Is it a little like, are they just nervous about what's going forward? Is it
Yeah.
the second date? And then the way that she was, I felt nervous about her too. I was like, wait, so she seems a little off. And then when she was just talking about like missing him, I was like, okay, maybe that
And then
was
we
just
saw the
it.
jokes. And then at the very end, during the credits, she was like joking about how he was talking about putting on his trunks. And she was like, that was your harness, Gerry. She's like, if
Yeah.
it would have been your trunks, you would have been naked. And he
Right,
was
right.
dying laughing. So I
Yeah.
think maybe,
just
are they trying to throw us off
It's
with
always
this
hard
one?
to know, but yeah.
Because it wasn't like negative.
No, it
it
just was a
felt
little weird.
Yeah.
Something like 10%, 15% felt
Yeah.
off. It wasn't like cuddles. It was a little like,
Which,
all right.
let's be real. I was thinking about this too. I was like, at the end of the day, Gerry didn't share, his answer when
Yeah.
Leslie asked him. And if this is like the first night he spent with someone since Tony, like that's huge.
A lot
and
of
that's
pressure,
also
a
a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
And probably a lot of that grief and things you're processing. It's a lot.
Something could come up at any point.
Yeah.
I
So
get
maybe
that.
something, maybe conversationally
Yeah.
he was struggled at some point, who knows, because of that. So
Could have been a lot. Yeah, there's a
been
lot there.
But it seemed like it went well.
Yes.
It seemed like it went well and like they had a great time.
I agree.
Anywho, next we have then Theresa's fantasy
Yes.
suite. But before then, another quick pause.
Yes.
So, as we've been saying, the holidays are upon us and gift giving is in full effect. But what are you going to buy for some of those guys in your life that you just don't know what to get? Evan, sometimes, I'll be real, I feel that way about you and my dad. I just sometimes I don't know what to get you guys. Well, guess what? Guess what you are going to be getting, and you're going to love it. It's some t-shirts, jeans, and sweaters from True Classic Tees, baby. You need some new fits, and these are fantastic because everything they make is crafted with premium fabrics to help you look and feel great anytime, anywhere. And right now, for a limited time this November, they're giving our listeners a special Black Friday deal all month long, up to 60% off site-wide at trueclassictees.com/momdad.
Yes, it's true. Let's talk about these t-shirts for a second. They're amazing. True Classic completely re-engineered how t-shirts fit. They're tighter around the arms, chest, and shoulders, but have a looser fit in the torso. The fabric is ultra soft and makes for a comfortable base layer on chilly days too. And this is truly incredible because it's tough to find a good t-shirt that really fits well. That's good quality, that's also soft, and that isn't super expensive. True Classic Tees give you all of that for a great price. The same goes with all their products. I recently got a pair of their super comfortable jeans, and they're now like basically my go-to. And once I find something I like, I wear it every single day.
You're wearing it every single day.
They've got that classic look, but mold perfectly to my midsection with an amazing four-way stretch for max comfort.
They do look very good on you.
Thank
I'm not
you.
gonna lie, they look very good. A feast for the eyes, you could say. Also, their hoodies and zip-ups are really, really cute. And if you're going more formal, they have amazing button-ups too. They look amazing on. Seriously, whatever you choose, you cannot go wrong with True Classic. In fact, True Classic is so committed to their products, they even have a 100% perfect fit guarantee and very easy returns. I'll absolutely be gifting this to the men in my life this holiday season, Evan, my father, all of them, and you can too. Shop now with our exclusive link at trueclassictees.com/momdad and save up to 60% off site-wide during their November holiday sale. End the year with holiday cheer thanks to True Classic. trueclassictees.com/momdad. 60% off is a great deal.
I thought that was like typed wrong.
No. Dang. Okay. Next we have Theresa's one-on-one. Now, here's the thing. Gerry gives it all. Gerry leaves it all on the stage, as the expression is. Like, this man gives his heart fully. And we see that after his night with Leslie, which he was just absolutely caught up in, he's having a hard time when he sees Theresa now transitioning to having this one-on-one time with her. You can see it's like his wheels are turning, and we see it in the ITMs where he's like, I don't know how to do this. Like, I don't know how to have that type of date with someone and then shift to the next. I mean, and that's absolutely wild. Like, also with the cameras in your face, you're talking about a marriage at the end, and now I have to be fully in with this person and shift to this person. And he also said too, he's like, I feel like I really make an effort to be present when someone is speaking, which we've talked about from the first episode. This man is so
He's the king of it.
present when he is with everyone. For the first time in this entire season, we see that he's not.
He's human.
He's human. Turns out he is human, and we see him.
Also, he's out of practice. You got to think. Young people are dating multiple people, especially with apps and everything.
Yeah,
you're talking
true.
to 5 or 6 people, and you're like, you know what I mean? You're going back and forth, and then you go on a couple different dates. So you're used to kind of like balancing your energy like that. You're 72 years old, and you've been with the same person for 50 years.
Yeah.
It's like there's like doesn't have the experience of being like, I'm used to like balancing my emotions and having 2 or 3 different people that I'm really invested in and kind of finding the time and finding the space to kind of figure out how I'm going to manage that. It's like, that's jarring.
Absolutely jarring.
And then not only that, but then to do it the next day. I think that's even more.
Well, and again, we've seen him from the top be so great at balancing everyone. But this is a whole different level. This is now like, we're having off camera time. We're spending the night. We're down to 2, and this is like, who are you going to propose to at the end?
And he's off. at
Yeah,
first.
he's off.
I mean, they go also. I think the producers did an interesting job here, where like he did the repelling date with Leslie, and then he did the like,
horseback
riding with Theresa. So like totally different vibes, totally different energies.
God bless Theresa. Teresa's in the ITM
Just going,
trying to
you won't
convince.
look at me. I
No,
can't
she's
talk
trying to
him.
convince. She's just like, well, here's the thing. At first I was thinking he seems a little off, but when you're riding a horse, like, can you really be having a conversation?
Right.
While he's there, he's probably concentrating on the horse. Also he's probably feeling like he wants to make sure like I'm okay on the horse, and he's definitely thinking about that. And he's also definitely like, maybe the fabric on his shirt is bothering him and it's scratchy, and so he's not able to concentrate. Like, she's like coming up
First
with
of all,
the full like bless her heart. She's just like, it's 100% like I'm reading into this. Like, he's
Yeah.
good, he's fine.
first of all, I love that. If you're dating someone like that, they always just come up with any reason why you're not possibly struggling with something, and you're fine. You're like, oh wow, great. But like, I think she's probably also coming to terms with the fact that like, wait, I think I'm the second one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Also being like, oh, he's a little off, which means that I'm the second one, which is like panicky.
Yes. And, he, bless him, he is straight up with her.
Yeah.
He sits across from her. He's like, forgive me. I am a little in my head because I have to sort out how I'm supposed to be dating two beautiful women.
Yes.
And so she's like, well, let me tell you all the ways I love you and pull you out of it. And starts telling him every way that she loves him. And, man, the level of, I'm just so impressed by all of these women that they're able to just really focus on their relationship with Gerry. And that could have been a moment where, Theresa started to spiral. But instead of then thinking about how his time was with Leslie, she was like, I'm going to let you know all the reasons why I love you and why we should be together.
She brought the PowerPoint back out.
She really did.
Which she does every time now. She's just like, and I love you. And here is why you should love me. And here's why our life will be good together. And here's why this. And if you look here on the second slide, here's me and you. I created as an AI generated thing of me and you with two dogs walking in the park.
It's just
I
a
think
little
this is a
sketch.
little idea of kind of what it'll
It's
look
like
like.
stick figures.
Yeah, you're like,
This is me and you.
I think this is what they call AI.
But like the thing about it too is, from Gerry's perspective, just like how we're talking about with Leslie, it's like you're always gonna laugh, and that's an amazing idea to have with someone for the rest of your life. But then with Theresa, it's like Theresa is someone who is so consistent and who's always there for you, like through the ups and downs, and she's really shown that to Gerry. And that's another thing he has to weigh, where it's like these are the ways that Theresa would make an amazing partner.
Well, what I liked about it was that he opened up, and like he was saying, I'm trying to have an open mind, but I'm struggling right now.
Yeah, he was like, I'm looking at her and I'm like, wow, Teresa's amazing, but all I can think about is what is Leslie doing right now?
Which is really, I think, honest.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very real way to look at what probably most people are struggling with on this show is like they have a tendency. They definitely have I think I have my person, but I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
And I know that would be really hard for me, is to keep myself open.
Yeah.
I don't like your smirk, whatever this smirk is you got going on. I could see that from a mile away. I'd be like, I know it would be. But
because I know you single out, like you definitely, you right away are like, oh, I got to vibe with somebody and like that's it. And that's my person. But like being in an experience like this where you're supposed to like stay open to getting to know other people.
Stay open. And, I bet in the beginning it was a little torturous being like, I want to be back with Leslie. We were just starting to kind of get there. And now I kind of got to restart the whole emotional clock here and do this. And the fact that he kind of stayed with it and didn't give up on the idea of opening up allowed for what we saw. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
Which
it's
is
true.
I don't think we've ever seen anything like that. Like
we
mid-episode, full-blown like re-engagement.
So
now
we're having a moment with Gerry where Gary's like, I'm all in with Leslie. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do this date with Theresa because I'm all in. He's like, I feel like they get to the night portion. He's like, I feel like I've maybe maxed out this relationship. I don't think we're going to go any further, but I'm going to try to ask questions. Yeah. And he asks her about her. I love Gerry so much. He's so sweet. He asks her about her career, like you said, brought up earlier. He's like, so what do you do, by the way? I'm like, I'm dead.
Like, how did we get this far?
Like, you don't know what, and she's like, well, you don't know what I do? And he's like, yeah, tell me about it. And she's like, well, essentially, like, I used to be a homemaker and then I became a day trader.
Which is crazy.
So she's like in the stock market. I was like, what? And then she ended up, because of getting like health insurance or something, she decided to start working for this other company. And so she's like this very successful businesswoman. And she's just like, listen, the thing about me is I thrive you know, she was like, I'm getting employee of the month. Everybody like, I'm crushing this.
I liked it. It's a side of her that we haven't really seen yet.
Thinking about
She
her
always
being
kind
a
of.
day trader. I'm like,
I actually looked her up.
Did you?
Yeah,
really?
and I think she's a financial advisor now. So
Okay.
she was doing the day trading thing, and then she got hired by this company. Blah blah blah.
She's
but
like
I was
in security or something now, something like that.
no, securities are like stocks.
Got it. Got
Yeah,
it.
So like,
I would have no idea.
you know, I think she's a bouncer at a club or something.
I saw security.
You clip that. Just going. I think she's like in security or something now. And then all I see is Theresa be like, "Hey, you're a little too drunk. Get out. Kick him out." She just works at the local club. I think she works at like a club.
More like alarms for houses, like ADT or something like that.
That was all time, babe. That was like the cutest thing ever. I saw something about security. She works for like a special operations team. No. Okay. So she's a financial advisor, and it was cool because I just felt like Theresa's very like, she gives off kind of like submissive, quiet vibes.
Yeah.
And so it was cool to see her kind of like shoulders, like she kind of
Yeah.
puffed her chest a little bit. She's
Hell
like,
yeah,
oh, let me
she
tell you
did.
what I do. I love that question. Here's what I do. Badass shit. And I was like, damn, okay, a little
Yeah.
side of her. And I think that also kind of woke him up.
Well, no, but I was saying it was so cute. I was obsessed with Gerry because the second that she threw those shoulders back and she's just
You
like,
saw
let me tell
her
you
kinda,
about
like,
my
snap into
profession.
corporate.
And he was absolutely wowed. This
Yeah.
man, I mean, that brought him back in immediately.
He's like, what kind of returns can you get?
he goes, I had no idea how responsible you are. Like, I am in the presence of someone who really has their shit together.
Honestly.
He like loved it.
Honestly. It was like
we
a
love-
side of her we did not know.
We love a man who loves a badass queen. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And I think that was like another thing too of like, she is kind of like, we're going to be real partners here.
And she also then threw out this, and I was like, okay, power move Theresa. Power move Theresa. She's like, well, you know, and it essentially the way I'm trying to remember the way that she worded it exactly, but it almost made it sound like she back at home was shooting down options. She was a little bit like, well, you know, there was these guys, yeah, we were meeting people, but then I was getting tired of having to, like, you know, when I didn't think it was there, like, shut people down. So I'm like, Theresa is out here going, no. And she's like, and then my daughter was like, well, why don't you try signing yourself up for this? And she's like, and that's why it happened, because I needed to meet you. But Theresa power move was like, yeah, I'm shutting down all the men in my city, Gerry. Just
She's
FYI.
like, all these single guys who
and
invest
I'm
their money
here.
with me,
Yeah.
they want to invest their time.
So I loved that too. I was like, okay, Theresa. But then they had a really sweet moment where she was essentially like, I want to be doing this with you.
Yeah.
I haven't been with anyone since my husband, though.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, yeah, the guys are out here trying to, like, you know, call me up, but I haven't been with anyone since my husband. So tonight's going to be a big deal for me.
Yes.
And I love that he's like, do you ever talk to Billy about this? And
That
I love that
was
he said her
emotional.
husband's
Yeah.
name, by the way. Like, he said
Yeah.
his name. He's like, do you ever
Mhm.
talk to Billy about it? And she's like, I do. And Gerry was like, yeah, once a day at least. I'm sending a quiet comment over
Yeah.
to Tony, and I'm talking through what's going on. And it was a sweet moment.
Yeah.
But then, you know, when they get to the fantasy suite, we don't see a lot of them
No,
in the
it's pretty
fantasy
quick.
suite together. We do see the lights turn off, and Gerry said, you're good at this. And I don't know what that is, but bravo T to whatever that
You're
is.
good at this.
Who knows if it was inserted from somewhere else, but I was like, okay, Theresa, bravo.
All you hear is just like, you know what you're doing.
I was like, okay. But when they wake up the next morning,
Yeah.
Theresa was talking about how he saw a side of her that, like, he didn't know
Yeah.
was there. Gerry said it was like a revelation.
Yeah.
And he's talking about how waking up next to Theresa was like the first day of the rest of his life. That his big thing is that they shared hopes and dreams and understood each other on a fundamental level.
Yeah.
So it sounded like they really got intimate in conversation. And like you were saying, it opened up a whole different side of maybe Theresa that Gerry didn't know about, and that they really share a lot.
I think this whole thing comes down to, on paper, Theresa is a more maybe aligned person. She's willing to move.
Yeah.
They probably have, you know, hearing about her job sounds like he perked up, which means that he has interest in those things too. So they can kind of, I mean, let's be real. Like if you're someone, like if your job is interesting to your partner,
Yeah.
there's a lot of conversation.
Sure.
You know, if, let's say he's a finance, like he loves finances too, and he wants to talk about money.
Sure.
They talk about investing and all this stuff, and then they're able to like go to dinner and just talk about the stock market. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's like
right.
there's a huge connection piece.
Totally.
They have the passing of their loved one. Boom, huge connection there. They can share each other's pain. They can. I'm having a tough day. I'm missing this. I'm missing that. Oh my gosh, my kids are calling me because they're having a thing. Oh, we have a memorial. Whatever it is, it's like total understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just the Leslie is exciting. I think that's the reality. It's like Leslie and him obviously also have massive connection.
I feel like Leslie is kind of like that like when you have unspeakable chemistry
Yes.
where you can't quite put your finger and you're like, I don't know how to describe this to you, but I met this person and there's
just
something
fireworks.
about them where it's like we're there. And so it'll be interesting because again, we only see so much as the
Yes.
audience, you
Yes.
know. And maybe they're, you know, not showing us certain things, showing us certain things, but I don't know.
Yeah, like Theresa lines up lifestyle wise. There's certain things that just really connect.
Yeah.
But like you said, Leslie seems to have that like real hold on him of like unspeakable chemistry, laughter, which is like
Yeah.
that's a tough one.
And I want both of these women
I
to
know.
find love and to be with like who they're supposed to be with. I really want that for both of them. But I will say, if Leslie does not end up with Gerry, I
Mhm.
really want her to be our Golden Bachelorette because
Yeah.
when she had the conversation about like, I've wanted my whole life to have that till death do us part.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want this so deeply for Leslie
Yeah.
and for her to have that.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
No, they
Whoever's
both
right for
deserve
Gary's
it.
right for Gerry,
I
but
know.
you know, I'm like, I love them both, but I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I Leslie, I just, yeah, I don't know.
agree.
But we then get the promo. They leave us on this
Yeah.
cliffhanger-ish where he says goodbye to Theresa and he's essentially saying like, I'm dying inside because I love both
Yup.
of them and I don't know what I'm going to do. But we see in the preview, because there's no episode next week,
Yeah.
remember? But the following week, he says that he in the preview is proposing to the woman he loves. We see the women with his family. So obviously next week at the top, there's not a rose ceremony. They meet the families first, which is an
Yeah,
interesting,
that is
because
weird.
normally Fantasy Suites, we have 3 people and then we get down to 2, but
Mhm.
they're going to just now, which I like. He's getting to know them. He's getting longer with each of them, I
Kind of,
think.
if that's intentional, it's smarter. Because then
Yeah.
he gets more time with
He gets
both
more
to
time
really
with-
feel it out.
Yeah, and then they're gonna meet his families, his daughters. Like I said, daughters. There's a moment where they seem skeptical. Who knows what's going down? There's a moment where he's saying he thinks he made a mistake.
Oof.
I'm like, what is happening? It's whew. And we're gonna get the final episode. I think it's a 2-hour long finale. I don't know if we're gonna get after the final rose. I sure hope so. But we
Yeah.
shall see. But I cannot.
It's coming
wait.
down to the wire here, and I'm to be honest with you, I have no idea.
I have no idea.
I
either.
really, truly, they really messed me up.
I feel
with
like I
how the last one
lean
ended.
towards Leslie, but I don't know.
I say Theresa,
Okay.
just because I think the show's messing with us a little bit.
Okay.
I think they're playing games.
See, I feel like at the end of this episode, it was like, oh, it's Theresa, which makes me then think it's Leslie. Do you know what I'm saying?
I
'Cause
just
the
felt
show's
like it
been
was
messing with
a
us
done
little
deal,
bit.
Leslie, and then they try to
Yeah.
get us back on track.
Yeah. He did at the end though with Theresa, he was just kind of like, I have no questions left with Theresa. So I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. Okay. Bachelor in
VIP time?
Paradise?
Yes.
Bachelor in Paradise. Okay, but first, one more quick pause. So family, during the holiday season, obviously spending typically increases as many of us are shopping for gifts, decorations, all of it. Well, if I'm already shopping at some of my favorite stores, I would also love to be saving simultaneously, which is why we use Rakuten. Rakuten is the most rewarding way to shop and save because their members earn cash back on everything that they buy. Rakuten is a shopping platform that partners with over 3,700 stores across every category: beauty, clothing, electronics, home, department stores, pets, etc. You're already shopping at your favorite stores like Sephora, Best Buy, Macy's, and more. Why not be saving while doing it? It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Rakuten is the smartest way to save money when you shop because you can stack holiday sales on top of cashback to maximize your savings. And you can shop through Rakuten for everyone on your gift list. Like earn cashback on clothing for the fashionista, toys and games for the little ones, electronics for the tech connoisseur, and more. Membership is free and it's easy to sign up.
Yep, Rakuten has 17 million members who are already saving. Their members have earned over $4.6 billion in cash back, okay? Rakuten also finds you the best deals, sales, and coupons. They do the work of searching for coupon codes so you save time and money. Get the free Rakuten app and download the free browser extension. Start all your shopping trips at Rakuten.com or get the Rakuten app to start saving today. Your cash back really adds up. Okay, time for the sand, baby. And I want to say this first and foremost. Maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm biased because Katie's my friend and I absolutely love her.
Yeah.
But I don't care if I sound biased. In my opinion, the first half of this Bachelor in Paradise episode, a little slow, a little clunky. Felt like the second half of this episode might have been, to me, the most exciting moments we've had on the sand this season.
Agreed.
So thank you, Katie, my queen. And
Yeah.
you looked beautiful.
It's like some people react, certain people are reacting in certain ways and getting
Yeah.
like pissed off or whatever. But I'm like, first of all, what are you mad about?
Yeah, we'll
That
get
there
into
was
that.
a moment of fun and like a suspense that turned out to be nothing too crazy. It's like, I don't understand why people are mad. Like, to me, isn't this why you watch the show? To keep you on your heels?
Yeah.
Whatever.
We'll get into it.
Okay.
But oh man, I was just I thought it was so much fun. I was locked in. And I was locked into that conversation with Katie and Blake too. And the roast. All of it.
There's some stuff there.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
for sure. That's for sure. Okay, but let's start from the top and go through it a little bit. First of all, Michael asked Olivia on the date officially. And I was
Who? Remember she forgets his name?
Oh, I was like, what?
Gotcha there. That's pretty good. First of all, never felt so seen in my life.
You mean when Olivia couldn't remember Michael's
Yeah.
name?
She's like, he's amazing. And they're like, who? And they're like, she's like,
She was cracking.
That's
She's
me.
Like, that was
Nothing could be
so
more me
you.
than like meeting the love of my life and being like, what was her name?
You forget everyone's name.
I'm bad with names, okay? It's
You're
something I
bad
struggle with.
names. But no, that was part when we were watching that you were cracking up because I feel like you and Olivia would be absolute best friends.
Yes.
I feel like you two would just be the absolute
We already
besties.
are in my mind, so.
Yeah, you guys are already besties
Yeah.
in your mind, and I absolutely worship her. That was making me laugh so hard. That was such a real moment too, because I always wonder on the show, especially like Bachelor, Bachelorette, I'm like, how do they remember everybody's name? There's no way. I remember like one or two names of like a deeper connection I felt right away, but to remember everyone's, absolutely not.
So bad.
Absolutely
I'd be
not.
lost.
But regardless of if she remembered his name, she remembered his face and his vibe, and she was loving it. And so they went on the date. And these two are just soaking up every moment on the sand. When, you know, sometimes we see a couple go on a date and they're just kind of like, yeah, here we are. There's a little bit of an awkward moment. They were dancing in some sort of like musician circle and they were giving it.
Having a great time,
They
laughing.
were giving it. And then they had this really great conversation. They're making out. She made me laugh again because he's just like, you're a good kisser. And she goes, rate me out of 10. Which I love. Rate me is like 10. And she's like, you're a solid 7.
So good.
It's so
He missed an
good.
opportunity to keep her on her toes there. He should have been like, 6.7.
He made the right
Yeah, I know,
choice.
you're
You
right.
asked rate me out of 10. You're like, you're gonna
better
give me
give
a
me a
10.
10.
You're gonna give me a 10. But I was just so excited for her because I will say for the rest of the episode, we didn't really see any more of them.
Right.
And women have the roses in the next episode during this next rose
Yeah.
ceremony. We didn't see much more of their dynamic, but I will say, at least from what we saw, maybe he did and we didn't see it, Michael didn't roast Olivia, which was the correct choice.
Especially if you're like newly dating. I mean, like 10 years married maybe, but like.
I would love if you roast. I love when you
Right,
roast
but
me.
like-
but
but
like we've
like-
been together for 18
But like
years.
But like second week, I don't think that's the time to like absolutely obliterate
some of
someone
these
you care
men
about.
out here saying, I mean, sorry guys, but not funny jokes.
No.
Directed at the person that they're freshly seeing. I mean, what is wrong with you?
Stupid.
What is wrong
Or
with
roast
you?
them for being too beautiful. Like find some kind of funny way to like compliment them.
Oh, I love that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, basically just talking about like, you know,
Yeah.
you're too beautiful.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
just
you're breaking necks out here, whatever. But the idea
Yes.
of like, well, you are a stupid idiot. You're like, jeez, man.
I'm
It's
like, what? And then the Tanner, I know I'm jumping forward, but Tanner directed towards Rachel, like we all were hoping for Gabby. I'm like, Tanner, that's just not nice.
Yeah.
Like, that's like...
Also read the room. Some people are not really built for getting roasted. And some people don't like that shit. And then some people love it.
Rachel said 100 times.
I hate it.
I hate roasts.
Yeah.
They're going to make me cry. And now you're going to get up here saying that you're interested in Rachel and bring up Gabby. Like, no, dude. It's not nice. Like,
that is a weird, like, yeah, because like clearly she dealt with that for a year.
yes.
So like, who's better? Who do we like more? All that
the
stuff.
comparison
So, like,
bullshit.
it was classic dumb guy, like, approach.
And they were both, and by the way, Tanner and Tyler were up there as a team, and then Tyler is like saying offensive jokes towards Mercedes.
Like, they bleeped it out. I don't even know
what he said. But he's like, she thinks she's a Mercedes, but she's a bleep. Maybe he didn't say a bad word, and they just tried to make
maybe it was
sound...
a car company they couldn't say.
Oh, maybe, yeah. But
yeah.
still, that's still rude. And you're like, you guys.
She thinks she's Mercedes, but she's just an old van.
You're like, whoa, like,
funny.
You guys are out here, like,
especially while you're on the rocks for everyone saying that, like, are you really interested in her? The whole thing.
These two are out here, and it's just like they were probably just like gassing each other up, being like, "Dude, it'll be so funny if we like absolutely burn the girls that we're talking to." And I'm like, "It's not."
It's like, prank call your wife, bro. Like that kind of stuff.
It's not. Okay. It's not funny.
Yeah.
Leave it to the professionals, my guys.
Exactly.
Okay. But anywho, point being, what we didn't see is Michael throw an insult or a roast, at Olivia, which I thought maybe he did and we didn't see it, but bravo if he didn't. Nice choice.
Well, Olivia wasn't crying after, so I think all signs point to, it was good.
That's true.
So whether he roasted her or not, maybe they made them all roast each other. Maybe it was one of those things like you had to roast your partner, but you find a cute way to do it. I'm sure Michael did versus the other guys.
Yeah, maybe like some cute little zinger, but not something that you're just like absolutely going to demolish somebody.
Exactly.
But so we'll see how they do. But I was so happy for Olivia, so happy. Meanwhile, Kat and John Henry are lounging around on the daybed, having their cutesy couple
She's trying
time.
to stomach when he was like, I had a good conversation with Olivia and it was nice. And she's just like, I'm happy for you.
Or then when he was just like, I love hardcore music. Like, I love a mosh pit.
Metal. He's like, I love metal. And she's like, I'll never go to a metal concert.
Okay, well, you can do those without me.
They have the longest list of things they do not have in common. No
These
question
two have
about it.
nothing
She's like,
in
he's like, I
common.
love the beach. I love diving. I love adventures. I love metal music. And she's like, I hate, and I hate. I like the city. And he's like, I hate all those things. Like, how they will survive will be the like,
we will
universe.
See.
Who knows?
But I will tell you this. In this episode, and maybe I was just reading into it, maybe in this, 48-hour period when they were filming, Kat is happy now with being with John Henry, so it's a little more laid back energy. But at least in the ITMs and what we saw, it made me think that maybe this show and production are now trying to give Kat an arc.
100%.
Did it feel that way to
they
you?
had like, she was saying nice things, and then like all of a sudden, like the music changed. It's like da da da. It's like, oh, like they're already trying to shift the energy.
There was a moment too where she was like, I was thinking, and I realized that like the way that I've probably handled myself on the beach hasn't been the best, and like
so I'll be roasted
I've probably
for that.
I've probably hurt people, and I don't want to do that. And John Henry's a good person, and I want to be more like John Henry. And I'm like, earlier in the episodes, if she would have said
as
that.
in like yesterday?
As in yesterday, if she would have said that, they wouldn't have shown her saying that. They only would have shown some sort of explosion or outburst.
Or what they would have done is like cut to her going, where did you that? You know what I mean? Like it would have like created a funny moment.
So it feels like we're getting an arc here. The show
100%.
is deciding to give us an arc. That was the energy that I was definitely getting with Kat this episode. So we'll see what direction that goes.
Yes.
Then we have Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
And Rachel we see her talking to Blake, which, by the way, I don't know, like definitely like friendship energy on the beach. But, Blake's been with the turtles and on Instagram, and Rachel has been with him, and they're posting themselves nonstop. So, I don't want to assume anything. It might just be a lovely friendship, but like they're definitely posting each other a lot, and seem to be having a very fun time.
I would say, man, I don't care who you are. You're out chasing animals and living in a tent. Sounds like hot times to me. So
I think that they were at a hotel, but anyway.
Okay, well, this is fan fiction. I live my own world.
But anyway, the people are going, is there something going on? Is there something going on? But currently on the sand, she's talking to Blake, and she's feeling confused.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't know what Tanner's intentions were. She's basically like, well, he hasn't really been talking to me since he gave me this rose. And I kind of took it as a friendship rose because we find out, and we didn't see this part shown, I don't think, but we find out that essentially he had asked her, like, do you want to be here still?
Right.
And she said yes.
Not like a do you want to be with me?
Right. And so she's kind of like, I was shocked when he gave me the rose, which all of us were, because we thought the Davia relationship was cruising, I guess. So she's like a little bit confused. Like, did he give this to me as a friendship rose? I'm assuming that's what it is. Like, maybe.
Or did he just like not? Yeah, because nothing pointed to like. It's like either he didn't like Davia that much.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was like
or
nothing.
He had a friendship connection enough with Rachel to be like, hey.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Is like,
sorry,
if I didn't like Davia that much for me, but maybe there's something that could be there, I'd still choose Davia because it's like I have no interest in Rachel.
Right, romantically.
I mean, according to like what's been shown.
Yeah.
So then you'd still choose Davia, just be like, well, maybe there is something there, maybe not. We'll see. But for him to like choose Rachel last minute, scream to me, I have absolutely no interest in Davia at all. And you know, we're friends, so like let's just keep each other around. Kind of an Olivia Braden situation.
Yes.
So then when all of a sudden we're getting into this, and he's like all of a sudden like acting a certain way, and she's going like, are you like me? I didn't even know that was a thing. It's like we're all kind of on the same trip.
I felt her so much in this when she was just like, I'm
and he's
confused.
shown no
yes.
effort. So it's not like he's been bringing her flowers and she's confused. It's like he's talked to her zero. And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, like we don't have, I was like, what is going on? Like,
yeah.
She's like, what?
And also too, you know, from her perspective, it's kind of like, okay, well, you know, the time on the beach has been somewhat rocky here. So it's like, I'm not going to necessarily like go out of my way and be like, so Tanner, what are we? It's kind of like, well, no, he can figure out if he's going to be coming up to me and expressing that, because from everything that I heard, this feels like a friendship rose. It felt very random. And the night of, I told him, he asked me if I still wanted to stay here. And I said, yes. So.
Yeah, like he didn't even say like, hey, you know, to be honest with you, this is a little left hook, but I'm actually finding myself really enjoying being around you. And do you want to pursue something and see what can come of this? Will you accept my rose? It was like, you want to hang? You want to stick around here?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
It also
nothing about it said that.
It also makes me wonder what conversations happened off, or like maybe that they took out, because we saw Tanner and Rachel talking and they were both kind of like, yeah, you know, we haven't really gotten to know each other too well, but like definitely like would be down. And they kind of had that top level. But then when she added in that, like, he asked me if I still wanted, I'm wondering like if they were having more of a friendship conversation and the show edited it to make it look more like, I don't know. We'll see. But anywho, she's pondering all these things. And then Jordan from her season walks in. Now, Jordan is the race car driver who she had her first date with. Everyone was swooning over him.
We thought he was a go-to during the season.
And she said no. During the date, she did not give him a rose.
Yeah.
So everyone was pretty shocked. He shows up with also Taylor from Charity Season, who none of us can recall.
A real electrifying guy. They're just like, welcome. He's like, yes, thank you. It's like, okay.
My body was screaming watching this.
I'm sure he's a nice guy, but it's like, I'm always so confused.
My body was
It's like they're 2 for 2. They pull Becca out of nowhere. No one even knew who that was. She was like one of the random extras. She leaves the night one because she gets like too nervous or something. And then we got like electricity guy number 2 shows up and he's just like, yes. Good to be here. It's like, what is the point of this? Like is this like the well we're pulling from? Like we've never even seen on the screen?
Becca was great on camera right off the top, but then she got a little nervous.
Yeah.
Or what, again, who knows what conspiracies we might have. But no, this guy Taylor was so awkward while they were filming him and Jordan and the ITMs together. Jordan's like dynamic and talking, and Taylor's behind him just like this. Like not even focused or reacting as he's on camera.
And then Jesse like asks him a question or something, and he just goes, yeah.
And Jesse's awkward. Jesse's like, okay.
Hey, cool. You're going to have a great time down here.
So they get down. Jordan right away pulls Rachel. Taylor ends up pulling Kat. And all I could think was, thank God this guy is not a firecracker.
Yeah.
Because if he had like some killer personality and all of a sudden he pulled Kat, who knows if John Henry would have been saying goodbye to Kat.
Seriously.
But nothing really comes of that. In fact, he's never even offered a date card.
No.
He pulls Kat, but they don't even give him a date card.
And they give a date card to Aven later.
Yes. But
So it's like,
yeah.
It's like, what?
But they just give a date card to Jordan in that moment. And Jordan and Rachel had a conversation right beforehand, and they were like, yeah, it's nice to see you. Nice to see you. We see her in the ITMs say, like, he's always kind of been a what if type of guy. But it's nice to have reunited with someone that you have some history with, which I'm sure would feel nice.
Yes.
A familiar face.
Mm-hmm.
He ends up giving the date card to Rachel, which I was like, that's a move on his part to be like, let's try round 2.
I love that. He came in like, let's rip. I don't, listen, it's interesting because for the first, when they did the date on the actual season, we all were like, wow, amazing, amazing, amazing. We didn't really understand why she broke up. They do this date with the yoga situation.
Yes.
And I start seeing it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I immediately was going, oh, you know what? I get it now.
Yeah.
And then she's, I think she's so like just exhausted at this point that like she's really trying to entertain it. Yeah. Nothing about this screams that they have a connection in my mind. It screams like I'm tired. I've lost. You know what I mean? I was like, I just want to. So I'm going to really open myself up here. I'm not going to shut this down.
Yeah.
But nothing about this yoga date, even though it should have been hot and sexy, like the other couple dates, the Braden date, the what was the one with Becca and Braden, like the couple dates where you're like, oh, it's like you're forcing you to have like chemistry because it's like putting your bodies together in tantric and all this stuff. And while they were doing all this stuff together, I was kind of just going, their bodies are not talking. Like there is nothing here.
No.
And it felt like his energy felt too young to me.
Oh yeah.
And she kind of hits me as someone who would maybe date someone older, or like I don't know what it is, but it just felt like we're trying, she's trying, and he's like oh, whenever you're ready, I'll be, you know what I mean? And so
he seems like
he seems like an incredible guy,
lovely guy.
It's just energy wise.
And I definitely feel like, I agree. I was kind of getting a similar vibe where I was like, they had like, it feels like they're attracted to each other for sure. But clearly the chemistry is not enough, because by the time that then she gets back to the beach and then ends up having a sit down conversation with Tanner, essentially him then telling her like, yes, I am interested. You're the only person I'm interested in pursuing on this beach. That then she seems to, at least from our standpoint at this moment, be going over to like Team Tanner.
Like Tanner's winning with zero effort.
Yeah.
Which shows there's no chemistry.
Yeah, there's probably not this. Yeah. And like it looked like they had a great date. They enjoy each other's
paper,
company.
He's great.
And like she said, she was vibing. But I agree with you where it's kind of like, he's almost like maybe for Rachel, like especially when she hears all of Bachelor Nation being like, oh my God, Jordan. It's maybe that person where it's like,
even worse.
I feel like maybe he's the guy I should be liking, but he's a nice guy, he's handsome, all these things, but I just don't maybe have that spark with him.
Also, if you're like, well, I'm still single, so maybe I don't know what I want. Maybe I don't know the right answer, so I should, you know what? Let's try. There you can be like self-doubt there, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. But, she ends up talking to Tanner, and I felt like, she does a great job of kind of putting it all out there to him. She's like, hey, I feel like you're kind of acting weird and uncomfortable, and I'm not really reading what's going on. And then he's like, I feel like your guard's up, da-da-da-da.
There's only so much rejection a man can take. Or
something. He says that, and I'm like, what?
First of all,
like,
let me just say this as a decree.
Tanner?
I hate when 10s say this kind of stuff. It's like, I'm 6'4" and gorgeous. It's just really hard, there's only so much rejection. It's like, dude, you know nothing about rejection. You mean the fact that, like, you haven't found your wife in a week? It's like, I hate when 10s do this. It's like,
also,
please.
I'm like, when did he get rejected on the beach? Like,
exactly.
I don't recall
First of all,
him ever
you never got rejected.
He
You shut down
Kat.
Kat. You left Davia, and you haven't made an ounce of effort for Rachel. And all you had to say was, yeah, I mean, I do feel like I like you. And then she's like, bye, Jordan. And then she, you know what I mean? It's like.
And then also, too, like, the episode before, it was like Genevieve was coming into. All the women were coming and talking to him. And he's like.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? He's never had to try in his whole life. With women. So now he's just like, what's all this? Like, I got to go up and talk to you thing? This is insane. The rejection's off the rails.
Like, there's been no rejection.
That's like, what are you talking about? You've turned down like 3 women.
There's been no rejection. But she then ends up going back to Tanner, and they end up having that long conversation. And essentially, like I said, it seems like they're
I don't really understand it. It seems like she's down.
And
it
then
seems like
he said, "You're the
he's-
only person I'm interested in on the beach."
But nothing about his words are matching his energy. That's what's so
Yes.
weird about it. He's like laying. She like walks over to him and he's like laying, looking at the stars. She's like, "Hey," and he's like, "Yeah, you're like the love of my life." And you're like, "Wait, what?"
Which
Like
I'm
you
sure
can't even get off the couch. You know what I
which
mean?
I'm sure
Like
is then very confusing for her.
it's,
Where it's
I would
kinda
be
like,
so confused if I was
okay,
her.
and that's the energy I was getting for her. They seemed like they wrapped it until the roast came, and then she
Yeah.
was like, "What the fuck
I'm
were those
so
comments
confused.
about?" But yeah, if I were her, I'd be so confused because it's like, okay, you're saying these things, but then you're not pursuing, and then we're having the conversation. You put it out there that I'm the only girl that you're here for,
Yeah.
but then you then roast me like crazy during the roast. Like I would no. That's very confusing.
Yes.
It's very confusing. What's not confusing that's happening is Aaron B and Eliza.
Yeah.
They are solidifying their relationship.
Very 7th grade cute little, will you be my girlfriend?
That was
You
so
know what I mean?
sweet. Yeah, he gives her the full. He does the bouquet. He does the snacks. He asks
Yeah.
her to be his girlfriend. She says
Aaron
yes.
B really is like 7th grade boyfriend energy. Like he's just so sweet, but he has all his gestures are like what you would do in 7th grade. Like, and I got you some food and flowers, and will you be my girlfriend? Like everything he does is very like, and then I wrote you a letter. You know, like I just remember doing that kind of stuff. Like, here's my letter that says like, you are the sweetest girl who I ever met, and then here is some chocolates with 2 roses in a heart shape. Like that's the kind of stuff like high school, junior high, like you do to like win someone over, you know?
Yes.
He's very like textbook guy
Yes.
that way. It's very funny.
But shout out to him because
yeah,
he has
he's
been
putting the
here-
effort in. He's
he
the
has-
only one actually
Yes,
putting effort
he's
in.
been here for weeks putting the effort in. Okay,
Not one guy has done anything special for the women once this whole time. Before there's like
Special dates here,
dates,
like-
a special thing. Aven's just been like sleeping. Like even the most serious relationships, no one's done shit.
No, so shout out to Aaron B.
It's a
who
low
was out
energy
here-
beach.
Who was out here really like giving it his all and making
Yeah.
sure Eliza knows he is here solely for her.
Yes.
Like this man is making his intentions clear, and we
Yes.
love to see it. And they are genuinely the only couple that I can see getting engaged on this beach. But you know, who knows? But they're my only one right now that I'm like, I guess, you know, Aven and Kylee were talking about baby names. They ended up going on their date too, and they have like a serious talk afterwards. But there's still something that I'm question marky about. Kylee in her ITMs when she goes on the double date cutting to that, when Aven and Kylee and Peter and Sam go on their double date, Kylee is saying, what I'm nervous about is I really like Aven, but what I'm nervous about is that he can go out and have fun. She's like, I like to
Yeah.
party, I like to have fun, I like to go out with my girls and dance, and he seems like he has having a hard time letting loose. And, you know, to his credit, he did his best on the date. You know, they threw him in like the
Yeah.
Speedos and he's having to twerk and dance.
But it's also bad up against Peter because Peter was killing it so hard.
He was really giving it his
so
all.
like when it's also hard not to compare. It's almost
100%,
like the
yeah.
you know, every rom-com movie is like where they're all sitting at a table at like a honky tonk bar,
Yeah.
and everyone gets up to dance, but then he's like, "Oh, I don't want to dance." Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and then you look, you know what I'm talking about, right, Lee? Like every movie has that moment where it's like everyone gets up to dance, and then the one and then like the woman starts fantasizing about some other guy
Yeah,
who would
yeah.
dance with her. Like when you're up against that, because how often in your daily life are you dancing? It's like very little, unless you're a professional dancer. It's like, how often is this gonna be a problem?
Yeah.
But it just signals in her brain when she sees Peter going crazy and laughing and making out. Wait, are you capable of this? It's like you could see her wheels
So
turning.
that's my question mark with Kylee and Aven, is that I'm like, is this going to stand the test of time on the beach? Will they leave engaged? I don't know. Just because
It seems just like very safe and chill.
yes, it's chill, but she seems to have has these questions.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm kind of going, I don't know. I'm flip flopping with whether they leave together or not.
Agreed.
Now Peter locks it down with Sam during
He
this
killed it.
date.
I gotta say, he killed it.
He's like, hey, like, I want to be exclusive, essentially. Now, I don't feel like he's, minus his interaction with Aaron S. on the sand,
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't seen lots of red flags from him, but there's something about him that makes me a
tough.
little nervous.
He's absolutely killing the date. He did everything perfect, but there's something about him where I just feel like it's like a 25% I don't trust you, and I can't
nail it
why.
either. And I'm like, you know what it might be? It might just be because of
All the drama.
the men tell all and
If
all
we
the
never
guys,
knew anything about him, I think it'd be like, oh, it's great.
yeah,
but
but
the
like
fact
all
that-
the guys
yeah.
having a problem with him, And I think they had filmed Paradise before, so it was like, oh my gosh, so they know. I don't know. There's something that makes me, I don't know. I have nothing to base this on, but I think I'm also feel very protective because I love Sam so much that I'm just like, I want the best for Sam, but also Sam's the type of person who I feel like would pick up if there was any sort of like funky energy. So I don't know.
I don't know.
So we'll see. I mean, everyone's saying too, they're one of the strongest couples on the beach.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe I'm dead wrong.
Maybe everyone's wrong. Maybe all those guys are wrong.
Maybe. Also going on, we have the truth box moment where we find out that someone saying that everyone knows that Tyler is not that into Mercedes and that he better come clean and she deserves the truth.
Like, who wrote that? The fact that it's been kind of a common thing too during the roast too. There was like another roast about that. Like there seems to be this common energy about him not being that into her, which makes you kind of think producers are putting questions in there. Because
100%.
I'm going, wait, who has beef with Tyler and Jess?
Well, and who says Tyler and Mercedes, you mean?
Or Tyler and whatever, all three of them. Because someone's got to know maybe the makeout happened. No one seems to have beef with Mercedes, and I don't see any beef with Tyler. So I'm going like, wait a second, is this just them throwing it out there?
It has to be producers because that line, you better come clean because she deserves the truth. Like, come clean. Like, on
the only person I could think saying that would be Jess if she wanted to be with Tyler and wanted to blow the whole thing up, which she clearly doesn't.
Yeah,
so
clearly.
That's all BS. That's absolute producer.
It has to be.
And you know what's not producer is the one that said Kat and John Henry are going to go all the way. That's Kat. Like anyone who thinks that's production is so full of shit. It's absolutely not. It's not production at all. It's Kat wrote that about herself because no one would say that because it's so dumb. Like producers would throw stuff in there to make things boil up. No producer would throw in there like a simple encouraging message.
Yeah, like they're really going to go all the way. We're really happy for them.
And Blake is very handsome. You know what I mean? Like, dude. Kat put that in there. Like, no, there's no reason for them to throw that in there. They only throw in chaotic shit. So, like, and then she's just like, oh my God, I love the truth box. It's like, please, dude. You just put in there. And Kat is a very successful and very strong, amazing woman. It's like, okay. You know what I mean? Please. Meanwhile, everyone's in fire. And then there's just a simple, encouraging message directed at Kat that one of her friends put in there.
Yeah.
It's like, please. So dumb, dude.
That was hilarious. But yeah, no, so Mercedes and Tyler, now there's big question marks. And Mercedes is really feeling it too. She brings up the fact that she's like, maybe Tyler has his guard up because of Brittany from last year, which I completely forgot about Tyler and Brittany and how that ended. And it ended after the show and like it wasn't good. And so, yeah, I totally forgot about that. So it makes sense to me that maybe he would have his guard up. But the whole like, he better come clean.
Yeah.
I'm scratching my head. And then we have the preview for next week where she's like basically saying like, you betrayed me. I feel used. So I'm like, what?
That feels like the makeout thing.
Okay.
It has
to be, right? Like what, unless there's going to be some major bomb that's dropped. Or
you're like, another girl walks down and then he ditches her and goes with her.
Maybe. But I feel like, I don't know.
That's the only other thing it could be.
I guess, you know what? Oh, yeah, because it's like, would he say I'm not really here? Because he did tell her, he's like, I'm here for you. There was that moment last week where it was like, just so you know, like, you're my girl, I'm here for you, da 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 da. And then if all of a sudden he's kind of like, yeah, I don't know how I feel. But I feel like it has to be the makeout, right? Because we still haven't addressed the
how?
Tyler and Jess makeout. Now, I saw someone post, I saw like through a comment thread, Bachelor Rabbit Hole posted this. Thank you, Bachelor Rabbit Hole. The question about like, are they not going to talk about the Tyler and Jess makeout? And I saw in the comments, someone said that Tyler addressed this in some Insta story where essentially he said like they talked and found out and figured out that they weren't really interested. My question is this, and I didn't see him post, so I'm so sorry. I wish I knew more. But my question is, did he say Jess and I talked and figured out that we weren't interested? Or did he say we all talked about it? Because that's the big question. And I was seeing people comment saying like, who cares about this? Because it's Paradise and everyone's making out. And to that, I agree. I'm like, yes, it's Paradise. Let everybody make out, you know, all of this. The reason that it's such a big question mark is because it would add drama. So why did they take it away? And the reason it would add drama is because we heard Tyler specifically say, I need to go have a conversation with Mercedes about it. Fuck it.
Yeah.
And because Jess is really close with Mercedes. So it would be dramatic.
It is ridiculous to say it doesn't matter.
It
It
does.
absolutely matters.
It matters to me. Now, not in a way
There's
where
things
I'm
that
like,
are much smaller that people that become a big part of the show.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm not saying like, oh my gosh, how dare they? I'm just saying like, I would think this would get.
This is something
It's
that would
reality
boil
TV.
blood.
It would definitely get, if I feel like, unless, like we've said 100 times at this point, unless Mercedes and Jess talked, Tyler and Mercedes talked, and everyone chatted and nobody really cared.
Yeah.
Then they probably wouldn't show it.
Right.
But with all of this drama leading up, it has to be about
I
that.
know. It has to be.
I don't know. I'm scratching my
I don't
head.
know.
Big time. Big time. Well, speaking of Jess,
Mm-hmm.
Jess and Blake, they seem to be cruising now
Yeah.
at this point. They're making out. They're playing frisbee, playing, quote unquote. I empathize, Jess. I also cannot throw a
That was
frisbee
rough.
at all.
That was
like, I
rough.
cannot.
He was 10 feet away, and she was throwing it 30 feet to the right.
That's, if you asked me to throw one right now, it would be the exact same. So shout out, I see you, girl. But then our girl Katie
Yeah.
comes down. Now, let's make something very clear here. In the intro, when Katie is coming down and she's talking to Jesse, she is saying that she doesn't know if Blake's going to be there or not.
Yeah.
Okay, which is true.
Like, she thought she might just pull like a Hannah and just come down and just, do the roast. And
Well,
it's just
clearly we
straight up.
end up finding out that Katie is not here to date. She's here to
Right.
do the roast.
Right.
But in being asked to do the roast, she knows there's a chance if she goes down, Blake's going to be there. But also she doesn't know for sure if Blake's going to be there because she's not coming down to chat with Blake.
Yeah.
She knows if she does come down that she might have to have a chat with Blake. And we find out that, it's been 2 years since they've spoken.
Mm-hmm.
My girl's nervous.
She was nervous.
She's nervous. She's
She
definitely
was
like,
nervous.
yeah.
Well, especially because they came in and no one stood up, which was kind of weird, and it
Okay.
was like a weird energy, and everyone. I don't think it's personal. I think it's just that everyone's at that time in the season where everyone's afraid. We're not another person to mess it up. So there's just this point where everyone's like, anyone coming down is going to wreck my life right now. So please God, I think it was just bad timing, but
Honestly,
it was
though,
rude that no one was like, "What's up?"
The disrespect of Bachelorette Katie coming down to the beach and nobody stands up. Like with Hannah Brown, Kat was sacrificing Brayden up on Hannah Beast's altar. Okay.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were running and jumping into her arms. I'm like, poor Katie comes down and everyone's just glued to the table.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Right.
Not zero getting up. I was panicking.
I know. I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" I felt so uncomfortable.
I was so uncomfortable. I was sweating for her. And she's like, yeah, everyone's super stiff all of a sudden.
Yeah.
What's going on? But then she right away, she's like, hey, can I talk to you, Blake?
Yeah.
Can I pull Blake?
Jess is sweating.
Jess
Everyone's
is sweating.
on edge. Why is she doing this?
Well, because, at this point, she hasn't said
Mm-hmm.
that she's here to host a roast.
Right.
It's like, is she going to be dating? Which
Yeah.
has been the big question mark this whole time.
Right.
And of course, Blake is also sweating because, like we heard, they haven't talked in 2 years. And Blake does not expect this. He is absolutely shocked, especially I would imagine too this far in. I have and I could be wrong, but I have a thought that Blake might have had a suspicion in the back of his mind that if he went on Paradise, that maybe, Katie as a past bachelorette might come down to do something because they have this happen. I mean, this season they've had Hannah come down, Charity come down, and now Katie.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to know probably in the back of his head that Katie might come down.
Yeah.
The issue is he probably is we're 3 days away from wrapping filming, so
Yeah.
she must not be. So that's
Yeah.
probably what was the big shock is it's
Yeah.
okay, we're nearing the end here.
I think the big shock here was, you can have opinions about her coming down, and I just think she played it perfectly too. She kept everybody on edge, thinking she's here to date.
I know she did
With
it
the
beautifully,
conversation,
the drama.
yeah, with the conversation that she had with Blake, it was a lot of closure, but it was also a lot of like, hey, like, I miss you. I know that the way we broke up. She apologized for the way they broke up, which was like over text, and then
or over call. Well, here's the thing.
Well, he was like
too.
traveling, obviously, probably.
Well,
I'm
no.
sure.
So what happened was when they broke up, it was during the COVID times, and he was in Canada. So it's like to cross the Canadian border. I don't know if we all recall.
Yeah, it wasn't really
but
an
it's
option.
like it wasn't really an option. It's like, weeks ahead of time having to like plan and prep and do all this to go do it in person. So they were separated via like travel restrictions essentially. So that's why a phone call. So go ahead. But
no, yeah, and I just felt like it was like clearly there was like, hey, I'm sorry for the way this went down, and which is all awesome. It was like a cool conversation. But I think what was the issue was that people had an issue with Katie because of Blake's reaction. And I think that's the issue. If Blake would have been like, it's so good to see you. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I miss you too. How you been? Oh my God. Oh, what are you doing down here? Oh, blah, blah. Oh, actually I'm not. I'm just here roasting. Oh, okay. Boom, boom. Then it would have been fine.
yeah.
No one would have felt like, what are you doing, Katie?
Yeah.
But it's only because no one knew that Blake seems to be still in love with Katie.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
he definitely.
I'm not saying that's the case.
But
I'm saying
you feel a lot.
Everything
of love
about
there.
the guy was like, I miss you. I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm just saying like that as a watcher, this is what I was reading.
Yeah.
I miss you. Being here messes me up.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with these feelings? Like that is what he was giving.
Yeah.
Because like he didn't know. He remembered every message she sent him. She remembers
she
what.
asked, she was like, I sent you some voice memos after. He's like, yeah, there were 6.
Exactly. And so then he leaves that interaction and he's completely rattled. And then we see later on that like it looks like he's possibly ending it with Jess outright. And so you're like, oh, that's why everyone's pissed. But what actually happened was like Blake was probably kind of reminded that like he needs maybe more of what him and Jess don't have. That's what it seemed like to me. Because if you can be, if Katie came down not wanting to date, and that alone, just seeing his ex can rattle you out of a relationship. In my opinion, that shows like what we have isn't strong enough.
Well, he said he was just like when I saw Katie, he's like I realized that Katie and I. Had much less time together, and I got there with Katie, and Jess and I have had way more time, and I'm not even close to that yet, which was then a reminder. But
it's like the paradise goggles, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I felt like, when I was watching the Katie Blake conversation, from my perspective, when I was watching it, it just felt like, I was nervous watching it because I felt that feeling in my stomach, like when we were watching Faith and Gerry.
Yeah.
That was like the parallel to me. Where watching it, I saw 2 people who very, very clearly in this moment you can see deeply cared about each other. Like 2 people who really loved each other. And because of life and circumstances and all of this, it didn't work out. And there was pain in that. And I felt like it was a really important moment too, where she was then talking to him about how she's like, I haven't reached out because I was trying to respect your boundaries. And then he was like, listen, I got those 6 voice memos from you, but I don't owe you reaching out to you.
Yeah,
and she's like, and she says, you're right. And I
Yeah.
was trying to respect your boundaries. And this is why, we haven't been, reconnecting. And maybe they did need that amount of time to get to a space where it's like, okay, now, because clearly we're seeing on social media that they're hanging out and they're good.
Yeah.
And I just felt like there was just a lot. I loved watching it, even though I was so nervous because I could feel that they were so nervous.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was a really beautiful moment on the show where they got this closure. And then she was able to have this moment too where, since their season wrapped afterwards, there was so much conversation about was Blake actually the one, that she wanted to be with? And she was then able to have this moment where she looked at him and she goes, it was always you. You were never secondary. It was always Blake. Know that. Always. And I know that. And I know, listen, with plenty of conversations from Katie, I know that she has nothing but amazing things to say about Blake and says that he's just the most wonderful guy. And that's always what her conversation was been. And I know that he was always the person that she, at the end wanted to get engaged to.
They had real connection there. It was a lot heavier than I was expecting. I'll tell you that much.
Yes.
I was not expecting him to be that rattled.
Yeah.
2 years later. It's one thing if
Yeah.
this was like a month ago. 2 years later, and it was
No.
like, oh my god, he was rattled.
No, he was talking, he was just like, sometimes I can't think about us because I just remember, so I just don't think about it. And it was emotional. I was
Yeah.
getting like,
Kind of wanted them to be together.
yeah, well,
what I mean?
that's
kind of watching it. I'm
well,
going, dang.
That's their.
I know. I'm just saying. I don't know what the
know.
deal is. I'm just saying.
I know, but I was getting emotional watching it.
Yeah.
And I was, regardless of what the audience is saying, I think, first of all, the audience watching it, again, is forgetting that Katie came down to host a roast, not knowing for sure whether Blake was going to be there or not.
Yeah.
And then here we land. And then also, Katie has talked about before publicly that after the roast ended and she was going to leave, the production did call her and ask if she would stay longer
Yeah.
and come back to the beach,
Whoa.
of which Katie said no.
She knew.
And then she was filming F-Boy Island after. So
Yeah.
then she went to F-Boy Island after that. But it's like,
I think that's very respectful of her because let's say she didn't want to date Blake.
Yeah.
That would have been torturous to him.
Yeah.
To like see her date other people in front of him. I thought that's really sweet for her to not return.
Yeah, 100%.
Like for caring for him. Like I thought that's really nice.
Yeah, no, 100%. And yeah, so like that's a little bit of the behind the scenes like
Yeah.
at the end of the day. So, that's not why she came down. But ultimately, they ended up having this conversation that clearly has benefited their relationship now and their friendship now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I was really happy for them.
Yeah.
And I thought she was like super vulnerable and upfront, and I thought he handled it so well because that would be really jarring.
Yeah.
And he handled it really beautifully.
He really did. He kept it together.
Yeah.
He could have had a moment of lash out, frustration about what happened or whatever their thing is, and he kept it real chill and
Yeah.
kept it really respectful. And they both handled it as
Yeah.
good as they could have.
Again, I have literally only heard just the most amazing things about Blake.
Yeah.
And
He
I
seems
feel
like a really great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And listen, from Jess's perspective too, like I got why she was spiraling.
Oh my God.
You're like, oh God, like
Worst case scenario.
we're finally kind of settled, and now Katie comes walking in, and Kat wasn't making it better when they were all sitting together, where she was like, I think Katie's coming down. I think it's good that she let us all know that she's here to date or like here for love, and I'm like, I don't know if she said that.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, what a relief when obviously it didn't last very long, but what a relief when she came back up and said, I'm not here to date. It's like, oh God.
Oh my God, that was so funny.
Thank
By the way,
God.
though, when all of a sudden she comes back up, Blake is like though in the head and the hands in the corner. Like that
He
was
didn't even come back and sit next to Jess. He just like
no, it
was
was pretty
in the corner.
emotional watching it. I was feeling
He was wrecked.
Yeah. But she then right away throws out those jokes where she's just like, something about Blake coming first.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. She was
I was gonna come, but Blake, and then
She was doing the little stand-up bits.
she was doing stand-up bits, and then the show is adding in, and they were all so stiff. And she's like,
Stiff.
"You guys can laugh, but they're so confused because they have no idea what's going on."
And everyone's so on edge and so insecure
So
about their relationships and so insecure about where they're going. They're like laughter is the last thing.
and
I
they're
can
like,
do right
"What
now."
is she saying?" And then she's
Yeah.
like, "By the way, it's a roast. That's why I'm here." Which let me tell you something about me personally. When Braden right away in the ITMs was like, I'm a masochist, I love getting roasted, absolutely roast me.
Yeah.
That's my moment of feeling connected to Braden. Like,
Yes.
I love roasts.
Braden and Olivia both
So-
have that like fun, let's not take ourselves too seriously energy
Yes.
that very few people on the show have.
And I related to this so much. I'm like, I love nothing more than being front row at a comedy show, and I just pray that the comedian singles me out and just starts absolutely demolishing me. And like during a roast, I'm like, please roast me to the point where I'm like right on the breaking point. Like, please. But there are then many people here
Not built for
who
it.
do not want to roast.
Hey, it's okay. They didn't ask to go to this comedy club that they're being forced to on the beach right now. You know what I
It's
mean?
true.
Like
I
Rachel's
know.
one of those people. Like, I don't like getting roasted. And she's like, I don't watch comedy. I don't really like this shit. And now you're forcing it on me in the gnarliest version of it, which is getting roasted.
Yeah, so like maybe at this point, some of the people should have been like, I'm going to tap out of this portion
Yeah.
of Paradise, and I'm going to suddenly become constipated. Like Sam. I'm going to take a note from Sam's book, and I'm going to go be
Or just
constipated.
be Becca and be like in the corner, just like
Just be like,
waiting.
I'm not going to go to the Rose Palapa. Like, just don't
not
do
gonna
it.
go.
But the roast starts, and it is. Well, I'll tell you what Katie told me. Katie told me that being there IRL, obviously, it was a lot longer than what we saw. It also, she said, there were a lot of like really funny moments. She's like, and from what I got from her is like, it was starting off really funny and there were some people who were throwing out some great jokes. She's like, and then it took some turns and some of the jokes got so brutal. She's like, so she's like, I got this feeling halfway through that I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
This was intended to be fun and silly and like, let's take a deep breath. And it has turned to absolute hellfire on the beach. And she said when she left, she had the feeling like, oh God, there's going to be some broken relationships from this roast, because she's like, some people just like took it way too far.
Well, because I think that some people like who aren't comedians, they just say mean things.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's like being creative is what makes a roast interesting.
Yes.
Not just saying horrible shit about people. And I feel like that's kind of what you get when you have amateurs do roasts.
Yes.
Is they just probably ended up saying a lot of horrible things about each other. And it's like, there's not even a punchline to that.
You're like, oh God.
You know what I mean? That's just being mean.
Totally. My favorite joke was when Katie said, I'm not surprised Baby Jess is with Blake. He used to make me call him daddy. That joke was so
good. And Jess
good.
laughed.
And Jess laughed, yeah. And that too, I was like, Katie, that's called the professional, because she's throwing out, that's my ex-fiance, that energy of like, okay, this is going to be part of the whole bit and he's now with somebody else and we're going to tease it. But we're also then supporting, you guys are together and he made me call him daddy, like whatever. Like, it's fun. It's playful. They both laughed. Everyone took a deep breath. I loved Olivia when she was just like, how do I taste? That was
Great
fantastic.
line. Great line.
That was so good. Blake had a great one too, where he compared Sam being constipated to Kat being full of shit this whole time. That was really funny.
I bet it sounds to me a little bit like they had help.
I would imagine.
Like
probably.
Katie maybe helped them a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe some other, maybe the writers of the show were there kind of helping them with, because there was a cut that was like, that's too good. There's no
like,
way you guys
okay.
just came up with that. You know what I mean? Like, these people are not comedians in any right, and some of these lines were real good, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, Mercedes had the one to Michael where you're like, yeah, he spends a lot of time on the water, but still struggles getting a girl wet. I was like, damn.
That's a zing, and that's a good one.
Yeah, that was a pro. That was a professional line. I was impressed. I was very impressed. But then, that's when it starts taking a turn, and we see a few of the individuals. Now, Tyler is laughing up being called out for not being committed to Mercedes.
Yeah.
It's like he's got a whole new personality because now he has an earring that Braden pierced, one large diamond, and now he's like, it's all good, baby. We're laughing it up.
Yeah, he's not like Braden. If he didn't have an earring, getting an ear pierced, you're like, yeah, fun guy. Tyler hits me as a guy who's like on a party bus right now, like he's on a cruise,
for
and
sure.
he's having fun. So Mercedes going, is he just a guy who's here to have fun? I'm like, I think so. I'm not getting serious relationship energy from him.
I did. So this is what's throwing me off. Like him on Rachel's season, him last season.
No, I'm talking about
Paradise.
just now.
Now it seems
I'm
like,
getting just having fun with the boys.
He's new Tyler. He's got the ear piercing now. He's new Tyler. Now he's here to have fun. And beforehand, he was like, I want a relationship. And now he's got his ear piercing. And now he's just
I'm getting fun
non-committal.
guy vibes. I'm not getting big committal.
Well, that starts turning. And poor Mercedes is like feeling that because a bunch of people are making those jokes. Also, then we had Jess not loving all of the baby jokes, all of the her being young jokes.
I will say, not that big of a diss when you're just being called young compared to like what other people are getting.
Yeah,
So like relative, I think you.
I was
got
a little
pretty
bit
clean.
like, you are younger,
Like, you're
so
young.
it is what it
like,
is.
Is that bad?
But I will say, there is a point to which you're wondering, is this getting in Blake's head? Which it might have. Katie did bring it up to him. She was like, yeah, Jess is pretty young.
Yeah, it was like, do you know Jess? Like, yeah, young.
She said,
Yeah.
it's okay. She's younger.
Young.
Like, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
That's just that comment.
Yeah.
So, Jess is probably thinking like, oh gosh, is Blake, is this going to make him question us?
But I will say, if the worst thing you got going in your life is that you're young, which we've all been, pretty good.
At some point we've all
You know
been
what I
young.
mean? Like when you're so young, it's like, dude, I wish that was my problem. I wish it was like Evan, but he's so young. It's like, yep.
Whoopsie.
Check my ID, get a drink,
But then Rachel was just getting...
That was a tough one.
And the thing is, Rachel seemed like, and again, I don't know if it's the editing, but they seemed to, a lot of jokes and roasts were in Rachel's direction. And
Like
I was
like how she can't get a boyfriend and like all this.
and
just
I'm like,
ugh.
dude, and I'm a little bit too like, you guys, like Rachel,
Why are you roasting the sweetest person on the beach
well, I'm like,
who's
dude,
never had beef with
Rachel's
anybody?
been supporting all of you guys. Like, there's been zero drama surrounding Rachel, and you guys are gonna like come for Rach. Like, also knowing the experiences experiences that she's had on the show that have been tough. I'm just like, come on now.
A little tough.
Also, if I was like, let's just say I was one of the guys, because it seemed like the guys were like very much roasting the girls.
Like they were having fun with it.
They were like going
They're
for
like,
it.
yeah.
If I was one of the guys, I would be roasting the other fucking guys.
That's true. I didn't think
I'd be like,
that.
I'm roasting all these other dudes.
Unless the rules were like you had to only roast the opposite sex.
I don't know. We heard Peter say to Jesse that you look like a big fat thumb, I think he said, which also was like, what? Well, it's also just like, what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
Peter was definitely one of those guys that was like, I'm not going to take the staff writers on this one.
Yeah.
Like, because his jokes were horrible. And so, like, he was definitely the guy that was like, no, I got this in the bag. Don't even worry about it.
No.
You look like a thumb. And everyone's like, is that a diss? I don't even know what that is. What does it mean to look like a thumb? Like,
It's like, what?
like I'm made of skin? I don't even, he's like, but with great hair. Like, I was like, okay, mom and dad. No, like, can we quit the cornball dynamic right now? Like,
But like, you know, I'm just like, guys, like,
they might have cut everything and then just kept I don't know.
that's probably likely what it was, but I would just be like, you know, even if they told me like the rules are you have to roast, hey guys, you got to roast some of the women, I'd be like, okay, I'm going really light when it
Yeah,
comes to
I'm not trying to
roasting the
create
women,
enemies here.
and I'm gonna go hard against the other guys like that. I mean, I just don't understand.
Classic.
You know, it was just, that was pretty bewildering to me.
Yes, it was.
So we saw it catch a flame, and afterwards, everyone, it was literally the beach caught on fire. Everyone was crying.
Yeah.
Jess was like, Blake, I'm fine. Stop asking me.
Yeah.
Rachel's saying something to Tanner, upset, and then she's bawling. Olivia's like, Katie, why did you come? She's like, you could have just texted Blake.
Yeah.
That was so funny.
100%.
Yeah, it was just absolute chaos. So the next morning when they woke up, everyone was a little shocked.
Yeah.
It was like, what happened? I love too that Brayden was like, the girls were pretty mad last night, and all the guys were like, wait, were they really? Like the guys didn't even notice.
Yeah.
And Brayden's like, yeah, the girls were pretty upset.
Pretty upset.
Okay,
dude.
just I don't know, you didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
But that's when we saw the beginning of the conversation pull with Blake, where Jess is nervous and Blake pulls her aside and he's like, hey, I just gotta be straight with you. If we're gonna be continuing, like, I feel like we should be a lot farther than we are, and we're not. And that's the thing, like, to echo what you were saying before, at the end of the day, like, we all know how I felt about Katie showing up on the beach, but obviously there were people who were like, why are you here? Da, 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 da. And as much as you can tell those people over and over again, clearly she's supposed, you know, she was here for the roast.
Yeah.
And then Blake was also there, and they had to have the conversation.
They made a moment out of it.
I think that ultimately, you know, for the people saying like, oh my gosh, like she came down and then like ruined Blake and Jess's relationship. It's like, I feel like what we've pretty clearly seen is that they've been on the rocks, and a lot of us have been like, is this going to work? I don't think so. And if anything, having this conversation with Katie, I feel like, as tough as it probably was for Blake, ultimately was extremely healthy and a really important reminder, especially when you're on the sand.
Yeah.
And you've been now here for a couple weeks and things get fuzzy and you're talking to producers 24/7, to have a reminder of someone who you were in love with and engaged to be like, oh yeah, this is how I felt. And so I can't be dragging someone along in a relationship if I'm going to be compromising because I'm not feeling like the type of love I know I would be feeling with someone who was maybe going to be my person.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I ultimately think it was a really good thing.
Yeah.
And I love you so much, Katie. Everyone will be like, she's so biased.
Non-biased show over here. Non-biased show.
Hey, listen, I don't care. You know, I feel like I'm non-biased with pretty much everybody else, always on these shows, on the beach, on the sand, whatever. I'm like, but I will stand by my queen Katie because I thought she absolutely crushed this, and I'm so happy for her and Blake having that conversation, and I love her, and she looked beautiful at the end. But yeah, that was it. Left us on a cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we're gonna have a break with BIP, but that will then be airing again the following week, so in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then there's a few more episodes before the finale for BIP. So, family,
We love you all.
we love you all. Have a beautiful week. We will see you again. Remember, because there's going to be a break with Bachelor in Paradise.
Yeah.
Next week we will be dropping an episode on Wednesday, not on Monday, on Wednesday. We're going to be catching up, having some fun conversations, doing some call homes, all the good stuff. And then the following week we will be having the recap for the Golden Bachelor finale on Monday, and then a separate BIP episode on Wednesday, just so that we can take our time with that Golden Bachelor finale. So,
Right.
anywho, we love you all.
We love you
Have a
guys.
beautiful week, and talk on Wednesday. Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. Mwah.
Mwah.
Love you. Bye.